and I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hey, Coos County. Hey, Oregon. Hello, America. East Coast, West Coast. I want to thank you all for joining me. And I've got a very special guest. We're going to go right out to her. She's going to give us an update from the Republican National Convention. And I'm bringing in Michaela Hammerson. Michaela, how you doing?
Hi, Rob. I'm doing great. I'm at the Republican National Convention, and we got some really exciting news today, so I'm happy to share that. A lot of you guys are probably already watching, but they nominated Trump, of course, to be our next president, and then we got a really exciting tidbit of news. So J.D. Vance was selected as the vice president, so that's really exciting. There's a lot of really good energy here today.
Good deal. And I imagine have you met anyone really interesting that you've been wanting to meet since you've been there?
Okay, so I'll tell you a funny story. When we got off the bus, my mom had this little like applesauce package in her hand, and we were walking in line, and she accidentally dropped it. And Scott Pressler was like, "Ma'am, you dropped your garbage." And I went and I picked it up and I glanced up and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's Scott Pressler." So I got a picture with him. That was super exciting. Yeah, there are famous people all over the place. I ran into Kash Patel when I was going to grab water earlier. But yeah, they're just famous people all over the place. It's kind of crazy.
I imagine that since what happened Saturday, you're just coming off of what happened Saturday here at the convention. I imagine that's the topic of conversation. What are people saying about what happened on Saturday?
I mean, I think people are just that much more committed to wanting to support Trump. It is an emotional thing. And, you see people get emotional about it because we love our president so much. And that's been really hard. Oh, my mom's here. We can't put her name on the screen. Loretta Johnson. But she's hanging out with me here today too. But yeah, people have been, pretty emotional about what has happened to Trump. But you heard people when the delegates were giving their votes, so many of them are like, fight, fight, fight. So I think that's going to be the new theme of the Republican Party is fight, fight, fight.
I think we've taken it to a whole new level. I think what had happened to the president really takes this campaign to a whole new level, because what you've done is, they've already turned him into a martyr with them persecuting him through the justice system. Yep. But then having him be the target of an assassination puts it on a whole other level that Ronald Reagan went into when he was nearly assassinated. And, whether you like the president or not, I would get ticked off if they tried to kill Biden. You know what I mean? It would be infuriating that someone has the audacity to take a life that so many people have decided to be their president. And it ticks me off that somebody would want to do that to Donald Trump. So, when I watched back in 81, when I was a very young man, I remember watching what happened to Reagan, them taking Hinckley down. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that, going through all that, but it reminds me very much of what's going on today, because it galvanized Republicans, it galvanized conservatives, but what it really did is that it made a whole country wake up to what could really happen if we allow the extremists to get in charge, right?
Sorry, I have people walking by here. I'm just like ushering people through. But no, I mean, I wasn't alive for that. I didn't get to go through that with the country, I guess, in terms of being aware of any of it. But I agree with you. I think that, we used to have a country where we weren't so divided, where we believed that, it doesn't matter, the will of the people should be honored. And exactly what you said, I would be horrified if President Biden was the subject of an attack, and I expect Democrats to feel the same way about this attack on Donald Trump. And I hope we still live in that country. It sort of seems like sometimes we don't, and there have been some really gross things posted on Twitter. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this will bring us together, though. Hopefully there will be some uniting behind Trump. I know people here are really excited, and maybe it's a little biased because we're all Republicans, but it has been very exciting so far.
Let me ask you, you were recalled off the executive committee in Douglas County, but I don't know, were you still a delegate, and did you get to vote in this?
Oh, Rob, I have a funny story about that. I don't know if I should tell the story, but I'll tell the story.
Okay.
No, I'm not a delegate, and I would have had to run to be a delegate. You go to a convention that happened a month and a half ago, I think. And I actually decided not to go to that convention. I was thinking about running, and then I just didn't think I was going to be able to afford to come here, so I didn't do that. But what ended up happening is we had some vacancies. And so they filled in some of those vacancies, and then somebody was not able to make it in Douglas County, and they needed to fill in an alternate delegate spot. Well, Tracy Honnell, our national committee woman, nominated me to be an alternate delegate. And our senator, David Brocksmith, our favorite senator, texted a whole bunch of people who got to vote on that and told them not to vote for me to be an alternate delegate. So instead, they voted for Court Boyce to be the alternate delegate. And he's unfortunately sick today and didn't credential. So I don't know. I'm not sure if he's here in Wisconsin or not. He might be. Who knows? But he was the alternate delegate that did not show up for Oregon. That sucks.
That does suck. And it does prove the point that even though we might be united behind our beliefs that, the people should get the leaders that they choose, we're still going to have our differences when it comes to the political party, the campaigns, and all the different things we go through. And thank goodness we do. I mean, you and I'm sure we've disagreed on different things as well. You know what I mean? So you have to do those things. You have to go through that. So
Believe
that's
it or
very
not,
important.
I have Democrat friends, and I can be friends with them, and that's okay. We should be able to have conversations and have differences. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. We just had a Trump rally yesterday here at the boardwalk.
Oh, how did that go? I missed it.
We had about 25 people show up, and I mean, they were riled up. I mean, these people were they were hooting, they were hollering, and we got a couple of birds, and we were, yelling back, "We love you, take care." And, it didn't even bring us down because of all the honking and hooting that was coming back from the cars. It was really cool. And it was constant, Michaela. It was like, as soon as I got there at 4:30, all the way until about 7 o'clock, they were just honking and cheering us the whole way through.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Was great. Yeah.
And that's in Oregon. That's the Oregon we can be proud of.
Right. Well, if we didn't have the Blue Man Group running our country, our state, we'd be a much better state.
Yeah.
So can you do that 360 that you did when you came on? And let's check this out.
So this is really neat just for anybody that doesn't know how this works. So all of the box seats that are, normally reserved for whoever, people that pay for box seats, they're filled with all of our media. And so they're actually interviewing people up there. They're using the RNC convention as a backdrop. It's super neat. Let me show you. Let's see if you can see it in the background. Let me know if you can see. I'll try to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Can you see those?
Yes, I can.
So we have all the different news stations, and they have all of these. What's right behind me right there? CBS News. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they're interviewing people up there. Some people are coming down a little bit further. I lucked out actually, and we went up the wrong escalator, and they let us into this section that's front and center, and it just so happens to be where everybody's being interviewed and everything too. So it's super neat, just luck of the draw.
That is neat. That is cool to sit there and watch different people that I'm sure you recognize on different news stations doing their work, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. So the security there, after what happened on Saturday, what has the security been like there?
Security is really good. It actually took us a long time to get in here. They ended up having to rush the delegates over because everything was so far behind schedule. They had probably like 12 metal detectors, but tons of people. You just can't even imagine how many people are here. There are so many people that had to go through security. They went through everybody's bags, not just a quick little look. They're going through the bags. You can only bring clear bags in here, so you're limited, and there's like a size limit that you can bring in. But it took us quite a long time, probably like an hour and a half, I think, to get through security to get in here. And then there is Secret Service all over the place. There's heavy police. And all the way in here, we have a whole perimeter. So we're in a specific building, but there's a giant perimeter around this convention. So lots and lots of other buildings. There's police all around it. You can only get in. You have to take a bus for the most part to get in here to even be able to get in. And then the credentialing's they've already done, I think, background checks on everybody that's here, and you have to have one of your little tags to get in. And then they have other tags for your buses, so they know exactly where you're coming from, where you're going to, everything. It's kind of intense actually. And they're like, if you lose your badge, if you forget it, whatever, you're too bad. It's not replaced. Right. So
yeah. I totally get it. What were you allowed to bring in? I mean, as far as water, anything?
They did let us bring water in, so that wasn't a problem. In an actual water bottle, or just like one you would buy from the store. But I mean, it's kind of like going through airport security. That's pretty much what it was like. Like, you really can't bring that much in. I have like an extra battery for my phone, and I have my phone. But yeah, of course, no sharp items, things like that. So.
Do they have concessions there where you can actually go get drinks and food?
They do. The lines are really, really, really long. I haven't been outside of this building yet today to see what's happening like in the rest of the convention area. But last night for our kickoff party, I mean, I see why the elites want to come here for things like this, because they rolled out the red carpet. We literally walked on the red carpet to come in here. When you get in, every single thing was free. And they had, I don't know, whatever you wanted to eat. I mean, just tons and tons of food stands and all, I mean, drinks, alcohol, everything. It was one big party. Everything's free. But they had said that this costs something like, I think they said $78 million. So if you're wondering where money went to the Republican Party, it went to a party.
Well, who pays for that?
There are quite a few sponsors. I don't have the list here off the top of my head, but there were quite a few sponsors. But then, of course, I think it's also, raising money. And for me personally, I had to pay $400 for our activities while we're here, which I'm assuming is mostly last night's party. it was, yeah. I mean, there was a concert. Trace Adkins was there. They had
Oh,
live
wow.
music. Yeah, live music before he came on, and it was just sort of a free for all. So it's been a neat experience.
Good. I am glad you're having a good time. You deserve it. I mean, the primary, we Republicans beat the crap out of each other during the primary. So it's nice to be able to get back and see old friends and get partying again.
Yeah.
And have you seen a lot of friends? Have you actually seen a lot of people that you know, right?
Well, yeah, because we all, so all of the Oregon delegation is together. So we're mostly staying at the same hotel. We meet up in the mornings for breakfast, check-in, credential, get all of because these tags that they give you, they're actually pretty sturdy tags, but you only get them for one day. And then they give you another one the next day. So you have to get your credentials every single day to be able to get in here. So yeah, I'm hanging out with the Oregon people. I know most of them just from being part of the party for the last few years, but yeah, it's been good, and I'm excited. I think it's going to be a neat few days. We're here until Thursday is the main event, and then hopefully, Trump's going to be here. He's got to be here on Thursday,
Right.
but then on Friday, early in the morning, we're flying home. So it's going to be a rough.
Does the vice president, does he speak before the president? Will he be on before the president? Because we know it's Vance now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how that's going to work out on Thursday, but he was already here earlier today. So they nominated him, and he came up, and that was pretty neat. Unexpected. We didn't know when we were going to be told who the vice president pick was. So it's kind of cool to learn that early on. I think the reason they actually did it, though, is because we already had the delegation together. And I've never been to one of these. I wasn't really quite sure how it worked. But after Trump selected him, it actually did have to be voted on by the delegates. So they put it to a vote. They made a motion, and then he was declared the choice for vice president. So pretty
nice.
neat, honestly.
I saw them giving the nominations for President Trump. I didn't know they had already gone through the nominations for the vice president.
They did it right afterwards.
Right.
And I think it was unexpected a little bit because they stopped the music and they sort of halted all of the proceedings for a second. But we actually knew it was going to be J.D. Vance earlier this morning before Trump even announced it, because people here can't keep their mouths shut. And we knew that Secret Service had already gone and picked him up. So we pretty much knew that was what was going on.
Well, let me ask you, because you're in the party, you've been there for a while. Was Vance someone that do you like Vance as his pick, or was there another pick that you would have preferred?
I don't have an opinion about him at all. I've heard really good things, especially since they selected him. People are really excited about it, actually. I thought it was sort of like a less known, selection, I guess. So it was surprising to me, but I think it'll be good. And honestly, when he was being nominated, he kind of looked like he was getting a little teary-eyed, and I really respect that. Like, he obviously loves his country. This is a really big deal for him, and I think we need a strong man by Trump's side that really loves his country. So I'm hoping that's who he is.
But did you have anyone yourself that you would have liked to have seen as the choice? For VP?
I don't really think I had a strong opinion about who he would choose. I think there were maybe some strategic opinions,
right.
So, but no, I didn't really have a strong opinion.
I'll be honest with you. I was really, rooting for a long shot, and I was hoping Candace Owen would have
Oh,
been.
that would have been a fun pick. I would have totally supported that. I know that Ben Carson was up there too, and
Right.
I totally respect him. He is such a smart human being.
Yes.
Like he would be amazing too. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, they are starting to fill back in here. So the delegates got to get back on the floor. This is crazy. I didn't know how long this was going to go today, but the delegates are coming back onto the floor. They were released for dinner just a little bit ago, and they're filling back in. I expect the music to start up here in just a minute, and then they have to be here until about 10 o'clock tonight to continue to vote on business. So
quickly, before you go, real quick, what are they doing for the rest of the week? Because we know what they're doing Thursday. What are they doing Tuesday and Wednesday?
That is a great question, and I'm not 100% sure what all of the business is for the rest of the week. I haven't been given a schedule, but tonight I believe what they're voting on is the platform. So last week, sort of like what we do, you were there at the platform convention for Oregon, so we come up with our own platform. We all get together, we vote on all the planks. They did that last week. And then they're having to get the delegation back together to accept that platform. So I know that's one of the things that they're doing tonight. And then I'm not quite sure. There have been some people thinking Trump may pop in. We're probably going to have some pretty good guest speakers here. Since it's the first day of the convention. So we'll see. I don't know. It's, you kind of just sit here and wait. But I will be updating people on X. You like all of my stuff. Thank you.
And send the pictures. I love the pictures.
Yeah. So. I'll keep posting pictures. If something cool happens, I'll start streaming live. That's what I've been trying to do, just to let people, cool. Jump in if they want to. But thank you so much for having me on the show. And I heard Sam Frost is on next. And
Sam is on next.
Yes. So I love Sam. Sam for County Clerk.
All right. We're going to work on that. So thank you. Thank you for calling in. And you have a good time and tell your mom I said hi.
Okay. Thanks, Rob. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye. All right. That was a great report. Did you see that room? That thing was just huge what was going on there. And, I have several friends in high places that can get us information of what's going on in the Republican National Committee. There were a couple of other people that I could have got into contact with, but Michaela does such a great job of covering all of that stuff anyway. She tries to put that information out, like she said, on her X page. And just look for Michaela Hammerson on X, and you can check out what's going on. You should try to. She tries to make sure that we're all keep informed. I'm sorry there. I got distracted. I got a text from my guest, and my next guest is going to be Samantha Frost, Sam for short. And we're going to have a conversation about the election, the general election, and Douglas County Clerk's position, because they read a clerk in Douglas County who's I've had to report on some of the weird things that he has done over the years, and it's strange how he has gotten his position. And I think that Sam is going to tell us a long story about that, and she's also going to tell us about what her core platform is. She's got a core platform, and she's got ideas of what she wants to do when she gets into office. And I'm hoping for her to have the best of luck. And she just popped in right now. Let's see if we can get her onto the stage. Hey, Samantha.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. We just talked to Michaela. I don't suppose you caught that.
Yeah, I did. I caught all of it, actually.
How exciting, right?
Yeah. No, it is very, very exciting that she gets to be where President Trump is. I'm so jealous.
Right.
So you had asked her about Reagan, and I actually have a story about President Reagan.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, as you know, I was a forensic scientist, and I worked for ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. And when one of my partners, who I shared an office with, he actually worked footwear and tire tread, just like I did. And he was also a question document examiner. Actually, he started his own business. He told me that he actually used to work for the FBI, and he was kind of like the Secret Service back when Reagan was shot. And he was there and he was actually securing Reagan during that time.
Oh,
And
wow.
he got to tell me all about that story. So, yeah,
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
that is absolutely amazing. Because of the assassination attempt on Trump, they've been replaying the videos and the pictures of what happened to Ronald Reagan in '81. And it just took me back to when that happened. I remember sitting there and watching that. I think I had caught that right after school. It happened in the morning, and they made the announcement on it in school. The president, there was an attempted assassination, and then we went home. Of course, we saw the pictures and the loop-to-loop videos. And I don't know. I think it was more impactful then than what events are now, because we have social media, and it seems like social media, it kind of erodes the impact, the feelings that you really have for a lot of these situations. Because a lot of times, and this is a psychological idea that we've kind of turned the world and news into a video game. And I don't think we absorb the real emotions or the depth of the situation when it happens, because we're so used to this video world, 24/7 news. Does that kind of make sense to you? It just doesn't seem as impactful.
Yeah, I think you're right. To be honest, I don't even remember. I was born in '77, so I don't remember really hearing about it. And then when this guy that I roomed with when I worked at ATF, his name was John, and I said, Reagan was shot, and he goes, yeah, you don't remember that? And I was like, no. So I mean, honestly, I didn't know anything about it, and I know it was probably pretty impactful back in the day when it had happened. I mean, my mother, when JFK was shot, my mother was still affected by it, and she was a child when JFK was shot. So I'm sure it was very impactful. And in fact, I don't even know if they even had the ability to slow the videos down back then.
Right.
But now you can see frame by frame on exactly, the whole Trump incident. So,
yeah, I imagine there were fewer there were fewer film clips between, for per second than there are now. And you could really slow it down today because of the digital quality of the film. So you're right. I don't know how much they were able to look at that, because the frame shots weren't nearly as fast as they are today. And it's funny you mentioned that about Kennedy. That was something that did affect a lot of people of our parents' generation. I remember uncles who still talked about it way into the 80s and stuff. They were very much affected by it. They all remember where they were the day this happened. And, I'll remember where I was when I found out. We were protesting against the wind turbines up in Bandon, and someone had texted me and said the president was shot. And I go, okay. And then I got a couple more texts saying the president was shot. And of course, I couldn't do nothing about it, because you remember how that wind was on Saturday. That was nuts, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I didn't even have phone service where we were down there.
Oh, really?
So I had like 20 text messages when I got back home. So, yeah.
Yeah. And they were very vague. The president's been shot. There was an assassination attempt. And I'm like, well, okay, and it's hard to read the phone because you're in the sun. And of course you're holding the sign, and gosh, those seemed like 50-mile-per-hour winds we were standing in, which I thought was ironic. We're protesting against the wind turbines, and here we are fighting the wind.
Yeah.
But,
I believe that the person that I had there actually felt very strongly about the windmills too and killing animals. So,
It's a horrible thing.
yeah,
It's, I don't, the more I learn about windmills, and I knew quite a bit, when I first got into this and read so many articles and studies on it, the more though I've learned over the last 4 months, I don't know how anyone can look at that type of research and go, yeah, this is a good idea. This is, if they worked and they weren't as dangerous as they are to the environment and to the wildlife, I would support this 100%. I think it's a great idea, but it's not going to benefit us as much as we're putting into it. The cost isn't going to add up to the benefits we're going to get from it. It's really sad.
Right.
So you're running for Douglas County Clerk, right?
Yes.
How exciting.
Yeah, I got involved with elections. It wasn't until actually it was about 2018 that I met Donna Smith. You know who she is.
Oh yeah.
And I met her, and she was talking about being a PCP. Apologize about my cat. She just has to be on me. So, and I was like, what's a PCP? So I got involved as a PCP, and I started volunteering for the Republican headquarters down there. And right at the primary of 2020, like right before the primary of 2020, it was nutso. We had so many Republicans coming into our office being very upset, very mad, slamming down their, cat hair, slamming down their ballots. I got the wrong ballot. I don't understand. I'm a registered Republican, and right before they individuals got their ballots, as a PCP, we would call and just be like, hey, did you get your ballots? Did you check to see if your registration is correct? And I would have to walk through all of these individuals that swore that they registered as a Republican, but yet they're showing non-affiliate, they're showing independent, they're showing as Democrat. And they're like, no, I registered as a Republican. Well, lo and behold, that whole thing, right? So we all took down names. Every county took down names, turned them in, and throughout the entire state, Gateway Pundit was the only ones that actually reported it. But throughout the entire state, there was 80,000 Republican voters that actually got their party affiliation changed, like actually changed, and no fault of their own, actually. And it was very interesting because the way that I was dealing with it, when I would tell my constituents at being a PCP, I would tell them to go down to Dan Loomis and present their ballot that they got and get a new one, because I'm thinking, oh, they can get a new ballot because that's the way it was in California. If you had gotten the wrong ballot, and I had an incident in California where I did not get my mail-in ballot, and I had to go down there and say I didn't get my mail-in ballot, and they actually showed that I voted. Yeah.
Interesting.
That was in California. So, but they printed out a new ballot for me right then and there at the poll, right? And so I got to vote, but they were like, well, we don't know if it'll count or not. And it's like,
because once you vote it, they don't count it again, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was pretty disenfranchised. Well, I was disenfranchised there, but I was pretty disappointed in that process. But here I am thinking, oh, don't worry, you can go present the ballot that you got, the wrong ballot, the Democrat ballot or the non-affiliate ballot or the independent ballot that you got. You can go present that to Dan Loomis, and he should correct it or make it right. Nope. The way that they approached it was, well, it says here that you're registered as a Democrat, so you got the right ballot.
So they wouldn't even let them change.
Nope. So a lot of them actually tore their ballot up and didn't even vote in the primary. And this was the primary of 2020. So then, fast forward and you're looking at the numbers. So Dr. Douglas Frank's numbers, right?
Right.
So fast forward to the general election of 2020, and you've got 80,000 less Republican voters according to the numbers, right? That's how
and the way I understood it, that it was overwhelmingly Republicans that were changed, and it wasn't going the other way where the Democrats were being changed to other parties. That in itself seems to be, impossible. I mean, if it's going to happen to one party, it should be happening to both parties equally, wouldn't you think?
Well, so when I went down to Dan's office, and because I was sending everybody there, I went to check on my information because my information was coming back as a PCP. The information that you get as a PCP, you have your voter's information, and then you have the percentage that voter votes, right? So mine was only showing that I voted 29% of the time, and I thought that can't be true. That's weird. So I went down to check up on mine, and turns out that get this. Since I came up here to visit my family. My family's been here since their whole life, and I came up here to visit in, I think, 2009, must have been. And I remember I was in college at UC Davis, so I was living there and I was voting there. Okay. But I came up here and my license had expired. So my mom told me, you're going to get a license to go down there because I'm not going to have you arrested, when you go back down. So she kind of forced me to get a license up here before I went and got a license in California. I don't know if we had motor voter back then, 2009.
Yes. No. We didn't have motor voter. I'm sorry. I was thinking in mail-in ballots. No, we didn't have motor voter then.
How the heck did I register to vote just by getting a license? He had my signature for registering to vote in 2009 in Oregon. And I was like, that's impossible. I lived in California. There's no way that I would vote here in Oregon. He goes, oh, no, you didn't vote. You just registered to vote in Oregon. And I was like,
that's weird.
I know, right?
And you only voted 29% of the time because you didn't know you registered.
Yeah, so I guess, and that's what I figured happened. But anyway, so I asked about this whole, changing party thing. And I said, so are a lot of people coming down and are they complaining about what happened with the changing parties? And Dan looks at me and he goes, what are you talking about? And I said, what do you mean? What am I talking about? I sent like 15 different people down here to get it switched around and actually corrected. And he's like, no, I haven't seen it. Nobody's getting their party changed. And I was like, well, that's weird. He starts walking away. The secretary goes, well, it's happening to not only Republicans, but Democrats too. And I looked at Dan and I was like, you just lied to me.
Right.
That's weird.
Because according to him, it didn't happen at all.
Right. And that was the first time that he lied to me. And I thought, this guy, okay, that's weird. Why would he do that? And then I'm finding out that he's turning everyone away that I sent to him because they got the right ballot because that's what they were registered as. So that
was 2020 and he was county clerk in 2020. Was he a Republican then?
I'm here. Yes, I'm hearing that he had changed his party when he got designated that job. So, okay. And I think Todd has more information on that. Todd Vaughn. I hadn't checked his party affiliation. He doesn't, to me, this is what I always say. Will the real Republican please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up. Because what does Trump always say? Trump always says one-day elections. He kowtows to the 35-day elections. And Trump, Mike Lindell always says, get rid of the machines. Dr. Douglas Frank talks about the machines as well. If you really want election integrity, which is really what the Republican platform is, I mean, my position as election official is going to be non-biased or nonpartisan, right? So I have to be non-biased pretty much. So yes, and those are the charts that actually Marty can. I love how Marty explains them so much better.
Right.
But if you can look at that and tell me that all the counties actually have separate elections, so it's insane. But yeah, there's lots of pictures up there. So I've got to tell you, 2022. So if we're looking at this chart right here, so this was what, the 2020 election?
This is 2020, and this is the voter registration chart, and where he demonstrates that at the beginning, and I can't read the date because it's quite small. Let me see if I can get it from the screen. It's 1976 is where it starts, and it goes all the way up to 2024. And it shows you in the election history how far apart they were. They were all different, which is exactly what they should be, because no county is going to be the same. Right. And then by the end of 2024, their registration, their voter registration is so much alike, they almost go into one complete strand. And that's statistically impossible. There is no way for that to be able to happen. And if you were a forensic scientist working for ATF and you had that kind of evidence, don't you think that would be something people should be glamming onto and saying, hey, globbing onto and saying, this is evidence. This Absolutely. Is evidence of something. Yeah.
In fact, I have spoken to my coworkers about election stuff, actually, to be honest. And it's about the ballots, which is kind of on the different side, but this is data. And yeah, you're right. This actually shows 100% algorithm. Right. Algorithm within the state. So what it is, and from what I understand of it, and I told Marty, I'm like, I really want you to come on Monday when I go to explain some of this stuff, because he can explain it better. But from my understanding, from Dr. Frank, is that the state itself has the algorithm, and the counties will plug in their age numbers for the algorithm, and that's the way it's aligning up for it literally to all meet in 2020 is just nutso. That means that the counties have absolutely no control over the elections whatsoever. And Dr. Frank is right when he says that we need to absolutely decentralize these elections. I'm in 100% agreement with that. And that's one thing that I plan to do. Todd Vaughn actually had a great idea. He's on my campaign, if you didn't know.
Great.
Yeah, and he actually had a very good idea. He said, why don't we, when we move to the one-day election, and that's my suggestion, is to move to the one-day election, because, and I'll tell you this, I've read the election laws. I've read HB 3291, which puts us into a 35-day elections. I've read a lot, and it seems to me that the state is leaving everything up to the county clerk. Well, if that's the case, when I get in, I'm going to do what I want, because that's what the law says, is that I get to do what I want. and actually that's what the Constitution says too, because
Right.
the people, that you guys are my boss, okay? Not the Secretary of State, not the county commissioners. Those aren't his Dan Loomis's bosses. It's we the people that are his bosses, okay? So what I plan to do is have polls like we used to, okay? And there will be chances to actually do mail-in ballots, but it'll be more of a disability type of thing if you can't get to the polls, okay? Also, I'm actually going to ask the county if we can have election day, because it'll be one day.
Mhm.
If the county can actually give the whole entire county a day off as a holiday to go in and vote on that one day election. I mean, does that make sense?
Well, they would only have authority over county workers, right? Is that what you're saying?
I guess, but I wonder if it's possible, because they actually said that we have a women's Veterans Day, and that was county. So I'm wondering if they would have, I would think that they would have some sort of poll where they can send out to all employments that, hey, we're doing one day elections this year, and we can have the day off. What we used to do in like Georgia, for instance, I used to live in Georgia, and what we used to do there was actually get 2 hours of work off at least, and they would release us early all the time. So because we had the polls and we had one day elections there.
From what I understand in election law, is that if it's a federal election and it's election day, you are allowed to take time off of work and go vote. They don't give you a mandatory day off or anything like that. And I don't know if they legally can, but they legally can say that you should be able to be allowed to have time off to go vote, and that is the law, and the business can't retaliate against you. And I know this because even though I would get up bright and early, because we voted at the polls in New Mexico. This is going all the way back to 2000 and the year 2000, and I'd have to stand in line early in the morning because I didn't want to miss work, because even though I was allowed to miss work, you had to make up that stuff anyway. So you try to get there early and vote. And I still would, the lines are so long, it would still take you forever. But I was much happier to vote in one day, get the election over in one day, and have the ability, okay, I'm going to take a few hours off of work. That's just the way it's going to be. So I think we pretty much have that covered. What I would be wanting them to do is to the county itself, the county commissioners working with the county clerk. I would like to see them work on that voting by one day in a county, because I do believe that a county can do that. And the lawsuit that Terry Noonkester had was literally doing that, trying to take it back to paper ballots and to the fact that the county clerk would run the election hand count in one day, right?
Yep. That's from what I know. Yes. Terry is a patriot. So, I mean, imagine turning in 6 petitions just for hand counting to go on the ballot.
Right.
And he's rejecting it.
Yeah.
And there, I think I sent you his quote, but it was, it doesn't pass the constitutional test, is what he said. What? Like,
well, that's what.
Uh-oh, did I lose you? Rob? You there? Uh-oh. Am I still on? So, uh-oh. Did I get kicked off the show? Or am I still on? Well, I guess I don't know if I'm still on or if Rob got kicked off, but I guess I can continue to talk if I'm still on. Are you there?
There I am.
Oh,
wow. I don't know what just happened, but I was trying to download a file with the clip of what he said. You know, you had sent me a whole bunch of stuff, and for some reason, StreamYard is having a problem processing the file, and usually they do it within just a couple of seconds. But today, and I've tried it on 2 different computers, so I know it's StreamYard. So I can't put those pictures up, but when I clicked the file off, I disappeared completely. I don't know what happened. So
It's like, uh-oh, am I still on? Okay.
you're doing the show, Sam.
Like you left me all alone with the show. I'm like, uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I know, I'm sitting there and I could hear you, and it was funny because I'm yelling back, no, I'm still on. I'm somewhere here. And so yeah, but
Sorry.
modern technology, it's a great thing when it works. But you being someone who in forensic, this is literally what forensics is all about, putting those sequences together to prove a pattern, right? That's what Frank did, Dr. Frank, and I'm just blown away that let me see if I can share this without going again, because we had several different slides that I wanted to show you. And so here's the one that we were just showing earlier with the voting and how they got all sequenced together so much that it's almost making a straight line. And then the next one was,
and that means that all states are in sync with each other.
Yeah.
Like, literally all states. I mean, that's statistically impossible. So.
And this is Oregon registered voters by county. And once again, it's showing a sequence of the year. Oregon registered voters by county. I don't like to look at these charts if I don't understand them. Oregon general election turnout. So this was another one that Frank did, where once again, you go back to the year 1980, and you can see that there was a difference between the counties and the way they were voting. And then from 1980 going all the way up to today, all of a sudden, all the counties get into sync, and that just isn't natural.
No, it's not at all. So from what I understand, so ERIC, Oregon is on the ERIC system. So
right.
It's what does ERIC stand for? Electronic registration something.
It tracks people who move from one state to another, and I can't remember the acronym, what it stands for.
Well, either out of county, right? Either out of county or have died, right? So during this whole lawsuit thing, I think at the very beginning when Terry Noonkester actually was presenting the actual petitions, she had said that Lane, or it was in the newspaper actually, that Lane County came out with their ERIC numbers of those who died or moved out of Lane County. Do you want to know how many died or moved out of the county in the amount of 2 years? And this was keep in mind, this was during the pandemic. So do you know how many died or moved out?
I have no idea. 2?
That was reported.
2 people.
The ERIC system said, 2 people actually died or moved out of Lane County. That's it. 2 people. So I guess the COVID wasn't as bad as this. Okay.
I guess it wasn't nearly as bad, or somebody's fiddling with the numbers. And just looking at the last couple of charts that we've shown, we know that they are fiddling with the numbers. And when I say they, I don't mean the county clerks is so much. I think they're going along with a lot of this stuff, maybe don't even understand it. But this is coming from the state or from somewhere else where you have somebody manipulating the voter rolls so that they can have as many registered voters as they can. So when they need voters for an election to get the results that they want, they can pull from that pool of voters, which really do not exist because they should have been cleaned off the voter rolls.
They should have, but they're not. In fact, you asked Dan Loomis, my opponent, what the ERIC numbers are, and he still can't come up with them. So why?
Oh, really?
Why use? Oh yeah. Why use ERIC? Why use the ERIC system if you're not going to come out with the numbers? You're not going to come out with the names. We've asked him. So this is let me tell you what I think is happening in our county office. And this is just my take on it because of what I've seen as an elections observer, and from what I know from all of the information that I've gathered. So, in the primary of 2022, when all 3 county commissioners were being elected back into office, because I do not think that all 3 of them were elected back into office, by the way. I do not think that all 3 of them won. That's just, my view of things. But anyways, when during the primary election, the 35-day election, that was the first year that they had 35-day election. They had election days. No joke. So I think it was the second election day that I was an observer for. And by the way, they only have observers for these chosen election days during the 35 elections, the 35-day elections. So on that election day, on the second election day, I went in at, well, first, before I went in, Dan Loomis called me. I was supposed to go in from 12:45 to 4:30. That was my time frame that I was supposed to go in. In fact, I believe it was Michaela and Cherie that set all that up. And so he called me before I had to go in. And he says, well, you better not show up until about 2:00. And I was like, what? Why? Why would I not show up until 2:00? But my time frame, and I was reading on the paper, my time is at 12:30. I go in at 12 or 12:45. I go in at 12:45 and I go in until 4:30. He goes, yeah, but everybody's going to be at lunch. So you might as well just show up at 2. What?
Well, there's an hour and a half there.
I know. And I was like, what do you mean? No, I'm showing up at my regular time. And he goes, well, okay, then I'll give you a tour. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I show up, and sure enough, he gives me a tour. And I'm looking at the wall. And on this wall, it's all sorts of you can see the envelopes that there's no envelopes, and it's obvious that they're blank ballots. They've not been touched. They've not been filled out. They're just blank. And there's no envelopes involved, but they're by the thousands, and they're all up on the wall. No chain of custody with them or anything. And I asked him, I said, what is all that? And he goes, well, that's just in case somebody moves. And I'm like, what do you mean? And you and I know that barcodes are used on our ballots to indicate each and every individual person. And I said, so there's barcodes on those that are to an individual person? He goes, yeah. And I said, so how do you know when someone's going to move? Like, do you have a glass ball or what do you call those, future telling balls in front of you? And he's like, no, just, we have those blank ballots so that maybe if somebody moves or whatever. And I was like, okay, that sounds kind of strange, right? So then I think back to when he actually talked about HB 3291. He got up at our PCP events, like several of them, and he had the question and answering before the actual election. And he insisted on including the ballots with no date stamp and no what do they call it?
Postmark.
Postmark. Thank you. Postmark from the post offices. And the question was, well, why? He was blaming it on the post offices for not having the resources that they needed because there's such small post offices. And I'm like, no, that's your responsibility. You need to make sure that they have the resources. Then you're the elections official. No, that's not my duty. It's not my duty. And I'm like, what in the world? Why would you include ballots that have no post stamps or no postmarks or date stamps? I just didn't understand it.
Right.
I went to about 5 different post offices in our county, and I spoke to each and every one of them. Each and every one of them told me that they send their ballots up to Eugene and get them postmarked in Eugene. But before they actually send those ballots to Eugene, they want to make it easier on the carriers. So they sort through the ballots, and if in fact one of those people that have died or has moved, if they run across those ballots, guess where they go?
In the trash.
No, they go directly back to Dan.
Oh, without the postmark on it.
He picks them up without the postmark or date stamp on them.
Now, the story we got here in Coos County, because we were complaining about the same exact thing, that they could take them without the no postmark, and Dee Dee Murphy was accepting them without no postmark, was the fact that they told us, several of the drivers, that, and I believe eventually the post office confirmed this, that they didn't put them through anything in the system. They took all the ballots and they took them directly to the county clerk's office without putting them through the postmark system. And they really didn't have a good excuse for that. They were basically to save time. And we thought that was just weird, because that means that somebody could actually fill out a ballot on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 7 days after that, put it in the mail, and that would go to the county clerks and would count as a vote. And anyone who knows people who have moved or have second houses or who have died and are still on the voter registration, but yet they know they're not going to put in a ballot because of those reasons, could fill out ballots for those people, send them in after the election to mess with the results of the election.
Yeah. And note that, so by the way, I think it was Michaela and somebody else, I think it might have been Terry. They went down to Dan and asked him so it's, when you get your ballot, it'll say return to sender on it. If this is not the person that it belongs to, return to sender.
Right.
So I forgot what they call those. It was the return, basically the returned ballots. We were trying to get a hold of the return ballot list, and he didn't want to come up with that. He doesn't.
Oh, wow, that's huge.
Yeah. So he doesn't want to expose anything. He will not give us anything. We tried to no end, and he does not want to participate in any of this election integrity, anything. And it's funny that he can't come up with the ERIC numbers. So after we know that now the post offices just sort through their ballots without even sending them up to Eugene, and they get returned right back to Dan. And then the ballots that actually, even the ones that do get date stamped and do get sent to a person
Right.
who has died or has passed or has moved out of the county, it goes right back to Dan.
The return to sender. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Return to sender. So yeah, they don't have, like, all of those blank ballots. None of them had envelopes. None of them. So,
Talk about the ability to manipulate an election, if you know what I mean. And we'll go further into this because there's reason to question Dan Loomis's character, and we'll talk about that because people are going, well, yeah, but I trust my county clerk. The fact is I didn't trust my county clerk when we had two of the commissioners that were up for election actually handpick the county clerk, and they picked the chair of the Democratic Party to be the county clerk. And you look at that and go, wow, that just the county clerk, huh? I mean, even if it was the chair of the Republican Party, I still would have had a problem with that. Hey, Sam, I've got a sponsor that comes on at this time. His name is Tim. I'm going to bring him on the screen with us, and he's going to promote his business, but I think you're going to enjoy his business because it's really cool. And then we'll get back to the conversation because I don't want to miss any of this. This is getting really good, okay? So just a minute. I'm going to bring Tim on.
Okay.
Hey, Tim, what are you doing, man?
Hello.
How's it going? Good job there. Yeah, we need people like her. I just got to listen to a little bit of what you're saying, but I'll make it quick. But, we do a lot of automotive work here. That's our main thing. And, tons of front end work. Austin's out there doing alignments. He's really, as far as I'm concerned, not just because he works here, but he's the best alignment guy in town now. There's been a lot of guys that have been in the past, and a lot of those guys are getting older like me. So, we need the young blood to come in. So we got guys that know how to do stuff, and we, do a lot of inspections. That's the first thing we do for rigs that, people call for an alignment and don't think about the rig being worn out. So those things need to be looked at before you waste money and time on alignment. But same way with exhaust, bring it in. We'll take a look at it. If you got a hole in your muffler, we'll see what we need to do. Josh, looking up parts and everything. He schedules everything, and it's just about anything you want we can get. And I'll be honest, to price it out here before you get on the internet, because a lot of times we're very competitive, if not even cheaper sometimes. So we do our best to be competitive, and the only way we can make a living here and stay in business is to sell parts and also labor time. And without one or the other, you just can't stay in business. So these places that do this stuff on the internet, it's all well and fine, but you got to remember who supports your community, who pays for your baseball teams, who helps out on fundraisers, those guys that are, on all these .com places or whatever. Yeah, that's great. And you get a good deal, but you're cutting your own community's throat when you buy stuff like that out of town. That's your privilege, but we don't install other people's products. We install stuff we sell here. This is kind of like I tell everybody, if you had a steakhouse, could I bring my own steak and have it cook it for me? Probably not. You sell steaks, right? So it makes sense, it's the way it works. But I just want to say thank you for letting us be on. And Trump, he dodged a bullet, so to speak. And it's pretty incredible, divine intervention, whatever we want to call it. I feel really terrible, and we were praying for that family that husband was killed. It's just a very unfortunate freak thing. That I guess Trump's got a fundraiser going. They got, what I've heard, they've got over $2 million already to that, which is really phenomenal. They can't bring him back. They'd rather have him than the money, but that shows you American people are really care about the family that happened to, and so do we. It just brings tears to your eyes. But anyway, we just have to move on and be stronger, right? And you got to stand up for what's right, and that's what she's doing. Like our own county clerk wouldn't accept some of your legislation you were trying to put in here a few years ago. It was pretty sad that she wouldn't do it. Well, I thought she worked for us. Who's the boss here?
She is supposed to be working for you, the people. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing, though, Tim. When she denied our petition, she actually used one of the 3 legitimate reasons that you could deny a petition. Dan Loomis is denying this initiative petition based on his interpretation of the Constitution, and then he's putting it through the court system, which so far has ruled in favor of him, but is getting appealed, from what I understand. Isn't that correct?
I believe so. Terry's kind of running into some walls, and I think it's just because the deep state runs very thick.
Yes, they do.
And the judges are all in the deep state's pocket, and Dan Loomis is part of that deep state mafia,
Yep.
I guess I would say.
Well,
And they're all scratching each other's back. So
sure. Absolutely.
Gross.
Corruption, right? Corruption sticks with the corrupt. I mean, it's just the way they
Yep.
are. The criminals stick together, and we just have to be stronger and better. And I never promote violence. I never do. And the other side always does. You get sick of the Cassie Griffins holding the head of Trump up and all this kind of crapola. And I've never promoted that. We can get things done legitimately. But if you're going to come out with me with violence, I guess you would expect to get something back of the same sort.
Right.
Just tolerating these people. No, if I'm tolerating something you're doing to me, that means you're trying to antagonize me. You're trying to bother me and cause me issues, and that's not right. You can't sit there and do that stuff and get away with it. And people are fed up with that kind of crap. And I was just so awesome to see Trump with his fist in the air. And he's not God, but he's the best thing we have going this time around. So and kind of like you, so you can be a strong leader, and like Rob and everybody. But anyway, phone number here, 541-888-4660, 135 South Shoreman in Coos Bay. And I was just looking in the beacon. They show the Capitol with a bunch of rainbow colored posts on it. Isn't that neat? Isn't that neat? On the 25th they did that. Why are they such a special group of perverts? That's what they are.
Yeah.
It's a perverted lifestyle, and I don't support that. How can they put that up there? That's completely singling out a certain kind of people and elevating them to some kind of special status when they have none. So I'm sorry, I'm just as equal as everybody else. Blue, black, green, white, whatever. You're a human being in God's eyes, right? So why are they so special? They get to put up their little, weird thing. So anyway.
It's strange that in April they don't put up the Christian flag. I wouldn't have so much problem with them doing the rainbow colors if they would do the Christian colors once in a while too. You know what I mean? Balance it out at least. But if you're just going to pick one, then forget it. Just do official colors. It's the White House. Leave it white then. Okay.
Right on, man. Well, I do have a quote. And it's a good thing that if a nation values anything more than freedom, it will lose its freedom. And the irony of it is that if it is for comfort or money that it values more, it will lose that too. So everybody just values money. They think the stuff is the way. No, you have to really search your heart. What's freedom mean? Liberty. People fought and died and bled and still are for those freedoms that we have right here today talking. And so I just pray for this country. God's got a plan. We don't know what it is. It may seem doom and gloom, but hey, man, he's the hope of the world, and we are doing his work by standing up for the right thing, and he will honor that. So good job for you standing up for the right thing. Appreciate you guys, and I'm going to leave you alone.
All right, take care,
What's the business
Tim.
called?
What's that?
What's the business called again?
Yeah, Tom and Giggs in Coos Bay. Yep.
Tom and Gates?
Giggs,
Giggs.
G-I-G-S.
Okay. Thank you. I'll
Come
try
check
to
us out.
stop in.
All right. You guys are awesome. God bless.
You
Take
too.
care.
God bless you.
Later,
Take
buddy.
care, Tim. All right. It's always good to have him come in. It's like a great break in between things. We get so serious, and it's like Tim comes in and gives you that levity and throws out a commercial at the same time.
Good.
So we were talking about the voter registration and how it's being manipulated because the ballots that are allowed to go back to the county clerk, and there really is no check and balance on what the county clerk is doing. And once they get out of the envelope, unless you know the barcode or the Q code that they use to actually identify the ballot. And most people, and this was the funny thing, and I don't know if people knew this, we've proven this in court, that there is no secret ballot in Oregon. They know who you are, and that's kind of, intimidating because there are a lot of people out there, I'm sure they lie to their employer about who they vote for because they want to keep their job. And that's why we have a secret ballot. And so not only are we giving the ability for county clerks or people in the county clerk's office to, if they wanted to manipulate the elections, but we're also taking away the ability to have that anonymity. And that's power. That's power that people will use against their enemies. We know this because they do it.
So think about, so when I was doing the tour, think about how they would check your signature, right? How do they check your signature? And by the way, I'm just going to slip this in. Nobody can really technically tell you or tell who signed that unless you're a forensic question document examiner. I mean, those are the professionals that actually investigate on who signed something. So technically, a guy that went to mechanic school for 2 years, he's not going to be able to tell you who signed that ballot, the envelope. But anyways, so the people that actually check the signatures, they have to go back into your driver's license, right? What's on the driver's license, your name, your birth date, all this information, and they're checking the envelope signature against your driver's license signature. They're going to know, and your ballot is inside the envelope. So,
right.
And then if your signature doesn't match, they have to send that ballot back to you, telling you that your ballot didn't count because your signature didn't match or whatever. So if they really separated the envelopes and the ballots, how are they going to tell who voted for what? So you're right. They're absolutely, it doesn't make any sense that they're secret,
Right.
just because you have a code on there,
And anyone who thinks that this is not going on here in Coos County, our Coos County Commissioner, Rod Taylor, and his wife, Nicole, they've got a list from Dr. Frank of voters who voted in 2020. And they went and knocked on the door of these voters to ask if that person was here. And of the 17 houses they went to, seven of the 17, the person that was on the list that voted from this residence, from the residence they were knocking at, did not live there and did not live there at the time of the election. And so you got to question, well, what's going on and who created this ballot for this person? And which is the story you just shared at the beginning of the show.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Frank kind of put a little bit into perspective for me. I love Dr. Frank. He's an amazing man. He's honest. He has integrity. And by the way, he has not only endorsed me, but I have his word on him actually helping me when I get into office to actually decentralize these elections. So, but the question that he posed to me, and here I'm thinking, don't worry, we can overwhelm the election process. I can get the information out there, and voters can make their own decision on who to pick and who would want to pick, somebody who is actually cheating in the elections every single time over somebody that wants election integrity and all this stuff. And Dr. Frank goes, how do you expect to win? And I was like, overwhelming the like I could just overwhelm it, right? And he goes, let me tell you. He says he knows that Trump actually had some white hats suppress the actual incoming votes that were basically Hillary was wanting to cheat.
Yeah.
And so the white hats went in and suppressed those votes. He goes, there was no votes added to Trump. He legitimately won. But he said he won not only by overwhelming the system, but he had some help from the white hats to actually stop those votes and getting through. And to me, that was like, oh no. And it was like kind of a shocker, like, uh-oh, I'm awake now. How do I win? Douglas County, when Dr. Douglas Frank came to Douglas County a couple years ago, and Terry Noonkester was there, and he had talked about starting a group and starting to go knocking on doors and starting to do all this stuff, right? I was in the election integrity group that was doing this. In fact, my best friend was 86, and she was adamant about going and knocking on doors, and we found all these people that were like, yeah, I tried to vote, but my ballot was sent back to me because the signature didn't match. What the, like, it was really weird. It was really odd because the Republicans that didn't get their party affiliation changed, they got their ballots sent back because of their signature not matching, and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know to fill it back out or re-sign it or whatever. They didn't know the process. It wasn't clear, and I'm sure Dan actually made sure that it wasn't clear. So we found a bunch of these people. We had affidavits filled out, and guess who the chair was of the election integrity group? It was Larry Reeves,
the chair of the Republican Party.
The chair of the Republican Party.
Good friend of Dan Loomis.
Yeah. So we turned in all of our affidavits. We did all this hard work. We knocked on doors. We talked to so many people, and nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happened because we turned those. We did so much hard work, and then above all of that, he turns around and says, well, we tried to find election problems and didn't find anything. Everything's all good and hunky-dory. And it was like, no, what are you talking about? Where are the affidavits? What happened to those? Nobody even knows what happened to those. So, and then, of course, what happened with Larry and him kicking off the Roseburg 6. Is that
and you were part of the Roseburg 6, correct?
No, I was never nominated for the boards until after they got kicked off, and that was pretty funny too. But that's a totally different story. But I was never on the executive board. I am a PCP now. That letter that I sent you. Yes, the letter was written against all of us that were running against the establishment Republicans.
The incumbents, all the incumbents.
Yeah, all the incumbents. So, and by the way, non-affiliate, or I'm sorry, it's nonpartisan. Sorry, nonpartisan positions such as the sheriff, such as county clerk, such as county commissioners, such as the county treasurer. None of those individuals should be signing a letter like this. They basically were touting the fact that they were Republicans. They were all together. They were all stuck together. They were not leaving each other. And how dare somebody actually run against them? This was not even the first pushback I got when I actually filed to run.
But this is huge. This is and here I'll go to the next page here. This is every elected official from Douglas County. All of them happen to be Republicans, and they took the side of the incumbent, the establishment handpicked candidates over anyone else. It didn't matter. And so they went after 6 people who were supporting those who were running against the incumbents. People who supported you, Samantha Frost, people who supported Todd Vaughn, anyone who was getting support other than the incumbent, and anyone working against the incumbent in the primary, which is exactly what the primary is for. That's how we get truly better candidates.
Yeah.
But yet we have all of the official office holding people writing against those 6 who dared to challenge their handpicked candidate. Talk about a bunch of authoritarian control freaks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was obvious from this letter that they want to remain the powerful ones. They want to remain dictators, and they would like to abolish primary elections altogether. I was actually going to do a fake campaign called "Abolish the Primary" and try to be funny with it. And actually, I was going to present this petition to all the Republican PCPs just to see who would sign it, because it's so ridiculous that they would actually go after us just for running against them. And I don't know if you noticed, I pick out details and everything. I don't know if you realize this, but they started complaining in that letter about losing elections. Mm-hmm. And I thought back and I thought, how are they losing elections? I don't, because the last election again was the 2022 primary election where all 3 county commissioners won their election, right? And I thought back and I thought, oh no. Last year we had elections last year. School board. Are they complaining about losing power on the school board? And guess who was? Yeah.
Go ahead.
So guess who was elected to the school board?
I have no clue.
Our Republicans, but the America First Republicans. Steve Hammerson, Michaela, the one that you just had on.
Okay.
Her husband is now on the school board. The school boards were completely taken over by patriots. And thank goodness, because those patriots were keeping critical race theory off out of the schools. And I mean, so I feel that was a complete win for us, our patriots taken over. Now, in the language that they use, are they complaining that they lost power over the school boards?
It makes you wonder. And of course, that would mean it was the establishment against the grassroots, so to say. And
by the way, we won those seats over Democrats. We were.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So by them writing this letter, it's a little bit on the hypocritical side, don't you think?
Well, not only is it hypocritical, but how can a sitting county clerk sign a letter opposing candidates when he has the people that he's opposing, the Roseburg 6, are working to help to get you elected? How can he go after those people who are helping you get elected in an election where he's the official over that election? That, to me, in itself, that right there is strike number 1. I've got a problem with a county clerk being so biased that he literally signs a letter going after 6 people who were helping the opposition. You, Sam Frost.
Yeah. And not, I mean, not only that, but they're it's very apparent that they actually consider any campaign money going to me or going to Todd Vaughn or going to Ashley Hicks, any candidate that is running against their little chosen ones, that campaign money belongs to them. They actually make a statement in there that it's hard for them to gain any campaign money when we're running against them. It's almost like that money is theirs, not ours or whatever. And it's like, wow, it's insane. And you're right. The county clerk should not be biased.
No, not at all. That's mind-boggling, and I'm not sure. Have you complained about this letter? I think I saw a complaint in there, but I didn't want to put it up
Mhm.
on the screen because it has a lot of your personal information.
Yeah.
But tell us about the complaint that you did about this letter.
Yeah, I did. I made a complaint to the Secretary of State. Uh, this is part of what I've had to deal with when it comes to election interference and the pushback that I've gotten. So I'll just tell you, from the hour that I filed to run against Dan Loomis, within that hour, do you happen to know who Sean Garrett is?
Yes, I do.
So,
I've never met him, but I've heard
okay.
of him. He leaves me a couple of negative comments on some of my posts. So yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So he works for David Brock Smith, and
Yep.
he works for Court Boyce. So he actually had the cops called on me. He called the police, the Roseburg City Police. Now, keep in mind, I don't live in the city, and but the police officer that I spoke to, and it wasn't a bad phone call, but the police officer that I spoke to actually said, "Well, I'm going to tell you that you should never message Sean Garrett again." And I said, "Okay, do you think that he could have maybe told me that himself?" And he goes, "Well, I'm kind of doing his job right now." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess you are, aren't you?"
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So it cannot be filed as harassment because he never once told me to not contact him, right? But I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know if he's trying to just get that record on established, basically, that the police
Right.
had to call me or what have you. But and that was within the first hour of filing. Now, keep in mind that my paperwork didn't actually get filed for another 2 weeks after that, after I had to call and find out what's going on with them, because they were not filing my paperwork for 2 weeks. That's another election interference.
Yes, it is.
There, because we have these little petitions that we have signed. And in fact, if we don't have these petitions that go out and get a certain amount of signatures, then we have to pay to go into the voters pamphlet, right? And $600 for us, it's not, $600 is not bad, but
Right.
it still is, election interference. When you choose to take 2 weeks to file my paperwork, that's election interference. So.
Right.
So then within that hour, I had the commander of the VFW call me. And this is right after the police officer had talked to me on the phone. And he's like, "What's going on? What's going on? Sean Garrett just told me that he's never coming back to this VFW because he just doesn't want to be around you." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I had already known that he was going to move to Salem anyways. And so he didn't even need to bring my name into it.
Right.
All he had to do was tell the commander that he was moving to Salem, and maybe he could become part of the VFW in Salem. But instead, he decided to cause all this havoc. And I talked to my commander, and now he's of the understanding, that it's his problem. Okay.
So what did he serve? What military branch did he serve?
He served in the Air Force.
Okay, so you got an Air Force guy, and okay, Air Force, they're not like Marines, they're not known for their macho-ness, but they got to be badass to be in the Air Force. And yet he's intimidated by you messaging him. So much so, he has to get an officer to stop you from harassing him when all he really had to do was send you a nice little message. "Please stop messaging me." Wow. Why? I don't know if he even deserves to go to VFW. If you're that much of a coward that you can't talk to a woman and let her know that she's that she's bothering you, that she's harassing you. I don't even know how someone sending you messages is harassment. If that's the case, well then, gee, they've been harassing me for a long damn time. So that's just mind-boggling. And you know how many people I get harassing me from the left, the right, all different sides. You know how many times I've complained on any of them, or much less called the officers? Zero. And maybe I should have been the one that's in the military, because this guy doesn't sound like he's worth a damn. Jeez, that's pathetic.
Well, in actual reality, he was the one that told me. He said, because I was trying to tell him how corrupt David Brock Smith was and Court Boyce, and I was showing him all this evidence. And his last message to me was, "You need to prove that he's corrupt. Let's take it to court." And I'm like, okay. So I just kept sending him information that would prove that David Brock Smith and Court Boyce were absolutely corrupt. And I guess he didn't like it, but he never told me. So.
And this is a guy who works for David Brock Smith. And I believe you said he worked for Court Boyce as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, wasted tax dollars as far as I'm concerned. But then, so this all has to do with you registering to run for county clerk.
Yes.
And so now you've got, down the road, you got this letter that I just shown you where Dan Loomis, the county clerk, goes after your supporters. Why? Because they're supporting you. And of course, they had me come down for a meeting. That was not allowed. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just so toxic. It's wow, it's amazing. And they had this recall, and you were at this recall. And from what I remember, there was a gentleman there by the name of Rob Price who kind of got a little rough with you because you went into the building. Would you tell the story on that one?
So the PCP, I'm going to back up two. I'm going to back up two PCP meetings before that. So the PCP meeting, two PCP meetings before this, they're wanting to pass bylaws, and I'm sure Michaela might have told you about this, but
yes,
they were wanting to pass bylaws that would supersede not only the bylaws commission or the bylaws committee, which Todd Vaughn was the chair of.
And he didn't know that they were changing the bylaws, which is kind of weird. If he's the chair, huh?
Right, exactly. They were superseding him. But they plan to supersede the voters. So keep in mind, I am an elected PCP, which, oh, by the way, if you didn't know, I'm sorry. PCP stands for Precinct Committee Person. And basically, Precinct Committee persons actually, we're part of the neighborhood. We're part of like the get out the vote type of person in our neighborhoods. So in our precinct, right?
Right.
So we're the ones that actually, call all these individuals and ask them if they got their ballot okay, ask them, if you have any questions, this is my phone number type of thing. So it is my precinct, my constituents that vote for me and elect me in. I've been an elected PCP since 2018. Okay. So they can't take that away from me.
Right.
But they wanted to pass bylaws superseding my constituents, my precinct, and pass bylaws that would actually get me kicked out of being a PCP, because I chose to run against their little
incumbent, right? The establishment incumbent.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. How dare you, Sam? Yeah,
I know,
geez.
right. So that was two PCP meetings prior. Fast forward to one PCP meeting prior. Okay, Donna Smith, who you know well, she was nominated. So we're all trying to nominate PCPs at this point. Right. I believe, was it that meeting? I believe that they had 19 potential PCPs stacked up and lined up that were supposed to be nominated to be able to vote on these potential bylaws and to basically kick the Roseburg Six off the executive board. So they were stacking everything at that point in time, right? So Donis was part of the Patriot team. She was nominated as a PCP and seconded it. Did I say that right? Seconded
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that's the proper procedure to go through with nominating PCPs. But she wasn't the chosen one to be vetted by Dan Loomis. Dan Loomis was there. He only vetted those 19 individuals that would have voted against me as PCP to basically have me removed as PCP and to have all those executive on the executive board also removed. Okay. And this is his bias. This is election interference.
Right.
It absolutely is. He played
Strike two. That's strike two.
Strike two, exactly. Now, and not only did he take part in all of this, he took those names of all of the 19 PCPs that were being nominated that would have kicked me off, kicked Michaela off, and Todd Vaughn. He took them back to his official office and vetted them as if he were in his official capacity
Right.
to do so. And this is after hours
Right.
at a very biased meeting. So it's just insane. And I reported all of this to the Secretary of State and then the FBI, of course.
Right.
Because the Secretary of State got back to me and she said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with this." Are you kidding me?
Right. Right.
Okay, now we're fast forwarded. Let's fast forward to the meeting that you're talking about, where we have this vote of kicking the executive board off. Now,
the Roseburg Six.
Yes, the Roseburg Six. So the executive board, the Roseburg Six are Michaela Hammerson, Steve Hammerson, which are husband and wife. You just saw Michaela on your show. Her mother, Loretta
Lynn.
Johnson.
Loretta.
And yes, Loretta Johnson. And then Terry Noonkester. Who else is on
Todd
there?
Vaughn.
Nope, that's right. Todd Vaughn. And one other person, and I know I'm forgetting.
Terry Curie. No, not.
Was Terry's husband on the executive board?
I'm drawing a blank.
He might.
You got
he might
five.
have been.
You got
Yeah.
5 out of the 6. So not bad.
See how we're doing good. So it was supposed to be a vote to vote all 6 of them off. And by the way, even though these 19 individuals in the last PCP meeting were nominated and seconded, I can't say that right. Even though they were seconded, they were actually what do you call it when they're established? They were established. They
Accredited?
were not. What's that?
Accredited.
I think so. Yeah. So they were not only nominated, but Donis had noticed after the whole meeting and after the nomination and everything that they were actually vetted in. Like they actually got in. Now at this meeting, I was showing evidence that and they said this is what they said that they were letting in. They were letting in all individuals that were nominated and elected PCPs. And by the way, they brought people from your county
Yep.
that were not even able to vote inside the building. And when I asked that, like, are there individuals that are not even able to vote in there? And they said, yes. I said, okay, well then Donna Smith, here's the minutes. Here are the minutes right here. She's a nominated PCP and she's allowed in that room because she's a nominated PCP. and they did not want to see the evidence. The Sheriff Hanlon was actually right there, and he was watching everything, and I was trying to show him the evidence, and he's like, I don't care, just leave it alone. And I said, no, I'm not leaving it alone. She's coming in because she's a nominated PCP. And the more I pushed it, the more pissed off they got, because I wasn't backing down. And all I was doing was showing them evidence from the minutes that she was a nominated PCP. All of a sudden, Rob Price grabs my arm and tries to take me down. Now, I was also Air Force security forces. I got out of that arm grab because I was like, do not touch me, let me go, and I got out of the arm grab, and I looked at Sheriff Hanlon and I said, that is physical assault. What are you going to do about it? And he looks at me and he goes, I'll have you arrested if you say anything else. And I was like, oh, so free speech is just not allowed, I guess. But assault is.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yep. So I didn't touch anybody. I didn't hit him. I did not. I just got out of his grab. And then I called it physical assault. I called it what it was, because he was not licensed to grab me. Right. He was not able to do that by any law, any means. And I did report it to the Roseburg City Police too. So, yeah, and that assault actually took place. And
I remember listening to the story after it happened, and I believe we called the police afterwards, didn't we?
I believe so. I think Donis, were you allowed inside the building? Probably not.
Oh, no. In fact, they called the police on me, and we heard the call go out. Rob Taylor is there, and he's Rob Taylor, the activist, and we don't want him causing problems. We heard the call go out, and they literally mentioned me by name. And when the cops showed up, they go, well, that's him over there. And he goes, well, he's standing on a sidewalk. He's holding a sign. What do you want us to do? And that was Rob Price too. And I know Rob Price, and because I'm smart enough to know not to instigate anything, I was hoping that fat bastard would come over and say something to me, because I was going to just basically verbally let him have it and tell him exactly what I think of him. And I noticed that he only seems to like to pick on women. He really liked picking on Donis. He really seemed to enjoy picking on you. But when it came to real men or any men, man, the guy is, well, spineless. It's kind of a trait that I've seen in David Brock Smith, who has attacked women while I've been sitting there, verbally attack women, and I'm doing the same thing that the women were doing, but he wouldn't dare say anything to me because he knows I'm going to come back at him. And I've seen this happen with Dan Loomis, and I've seen this happen with Rob Price. And it just seems to be a trait of these cowards that, if they can't face anyone, they're going to go behind their backs and do whatever they can to destroy our career. But yet for you women, oh, no, we're actually going to grab your wrist and drag you outside. We're going to try to take you down and get physical with you. That's bizarre, Sam. That's crazy.
It is. And I can't. It almost seems surreal to me that actually happened. Yeah. And it actually happened in front of our sheriff.
Yeah.
Who threatened to have the victim arrested.
Right.
And not the assailant, not the perpetrator. And how is he not in jail right now? It's hard for me to fathom this kind of stuff. And
this is the same sheriff who had porn revenge done to him by an old girlfriend who went out and showed his private parts that he had taken pictures of. Did you know this?
I did not know. No.
Oh, yeah. So his girlfriend got mad at him, and he had taken pictures of his private parts, and he had sent them to her, and she got revenge against him by releasing these photos. I will not show him on here because, well,
Okay.
first off, his shortcomings aren't something I want to expose people to.
Yeah.
But it just goes once again to show the character of some of these people. I mean, Dan Loomis is afraid of transparency, and he doesn't mind going after women. The same thing with Rob Price. He's a big talker when it comes to you gals. But, for people like me, he'd rather call the cops and let them do the dirty work. And then you got a sheriff who threatens to have you arrested for just speaking your mind after seeing you get assaulted. And this is the same guy who's had porn revenge put on him because he's out there taking pictures of himself, sending them over the internet. Does anyone get an idea that maybe some of these guys are, lack of a better word, dirtbags?
Yeah. Well, and let me. I'm gonna go there with the sheriff as well.
Okay.
So I sent you pictures of the 3 county commissioners and the sheriff posing next to brand new Jeeps. So remember, I told you about the 2022 primary election. So by the way, Dan had kicked me out of that office. By the way, because I was saying too much. Apparently, I was questioning too much. He told me in a lot of ways how he was cheating at that point in time, but he kicked me out. This was after the 2022 primary election, and there's several pictures, and I know. So this was at the county courthouse when this was happening. So yes, they're all posing. See him posing next to his brand new Jeep? This is the sheriff. Okay. He was posing next. Now, there was a county commissioners forum where Tim Freeman, who you see pictured there, was saying over and over again, Sheriff Hanlon backs me. Sheriff Hanlon backs me. Sheriff Hanlon backs me for county commissioner. And so he was constantly bragging about that. And Sheriff Hanlon's in the back, nodding his head. Yeah, okay. So, and keep in mind that I'm not sure if you know what the 3 red banners means.
Oh, the 3 red banners on political signs or any signs being part of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party.
Yep, it's Chinese socialism. Tim Freeman's the only one out of all 3 county commissioners. He's the only one that advertises the Chinese socialism symbolism, like the 3 red banners. Okay. Now the sheriff was consistently backing just Tim Freeman. Imagine that, right? So now you've got them posing around these Jeeps. Now, if you expand one of those Jeeps, it says BO1CE on it, on the license plate. Okay. Now, after all this surfaced and these pictures were kind of spread over social media, they threatened. Well, here's where my commander comes in again. Tim Freeman. So there's money that goes to veterans things over every year.
Right.
And Tim Freeman had threatened my commander that if these pictures surface anymore, that they were not going to get any money. And so that's they don't want these pictures getting out. And so when these pictures did get out, though, and people started questioning, the sheriff had an answer for this. He told Rob Price, the one that actually assaulted me, he told Rob Price that these Jeeps came from Germany. And don't worry, they have a Jeep manufacturing company in Germany. They don't. I did research on it. Jeep manufacturing company actually is in 6 different countries. There's 10 different outlets, but Germany is not one of them. And don't worry, they're for the fleet, the work fleet, right? So that means that they should have government license plates on them, right?
That's right.
They don't. They actually have personalized license plates. And I didn't send you that picture, but I also have taken clips of Chris Boyce using his Jeep for vacation, putting his motorcycle on the back, and not only his personalized plates, but he's sold this Jeep and for a Porsche, and then he's selling his Porsche right now, and he got a new Jeep. So all this, how is he, if it's for the fleet, how is he able to personally sell his Jeep and Porsche? And
his name is on the license plate on that Jeep in the middle of that picture. I mean, I can't blow it up, and I if I would have known, I would have. But on that picture, and this is going, if anyone is at home and they're watching this on a big screen TV, they can clearly see that middle Jeep has Boyce on it. And okay, so my question to you is, I need evidence. We always need evidence for who gave them these Jeeps, how much did it cost, why did they give it to them, and what has happened to these Jeeps since then. And have you done a public records request to find out any of that information?
I have not. Nan Isaacson, she sent a questionnaire to Lars Larson. She's actually tried to, she's emailed the county commissioners. In fact, they were actually harassing her for a long time. They would never respond back to her on her questions of like where they came from, who purchased them. But they would call her and try to talk to her on the phone. Basically, that's harassment. They wouldn't email her back. Elaine Lavington actually did because she used to work for the county, she did look into it, and apparently they were not purchased by the county. So that's there. It was not our tax money that they were purchased from. But I will tell you this though. If you've ever listened to Maria Zack, and I know we have to go soon, but if you've ever listened to Maria
Actually,
Zack,
we got plenty of time. Don't rush
really?
anything. We got time.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this story. This is
okay.
good.
Okay. So Maria Zack, do you know who she is?
No, I don't.
So she busted the Italian officials for the 2020 election. So how do I want to say it? So Italian officials, she knew them. She knew these Italian officials, and they actually came to her, and they told her that they actually asked her the question, why is it that we flipped the election to Joe Biden? And she's like, what are you talking about? I had nothing to do with that. And they're like, no, we just want to know why. Why did we do it? Why was that order given to us? Basically, it was an order for them to actually infiltrate the 2020 election, Italian officials to infiltrate the 2020 election and switch the votes from Trump to Joe Biden. And that was, and so she did that bust. They are actually, these Italian officials are actually on record with all sorts of confessions, and they were busted. Pompeo, there's a photo out there of Pompeo actually going to Italy and having them busted, right? Now, Maria Zack then was kind of running the tracking down of the Dominion officials after the 2020 election. She did catch up with this Dominion official, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but she caught up with this Dominion official. This Dominion official was from Canada. He lived in Canada. He was a Canadian. And he actually specifically, he confessed. He confessed to flipping the Arizona election since the early 2000s. And he also confessed, get this, this all has to do with our county commissioners. He also confessed to each and every time that he flipped those votes to whoever ordered him to flip it to, right? He would get gifted a vehicle by doing so. Okay? Now, going back also to the 2020 election, Germany was also involved in our 2020 election. I don't know if you knew this, but 5 servers were seized from Germany
Yeah,
from infiltrating in our 2020 election.
right.
So our county sheriff, John Hanlon, admitted that these vehicles came from Germany. Here's the question. Is Germany a part of election interference into Douglas County? Are our elections being actually controlled by Germany? I mean, why else would they get these vehicles from Germany? Why would they come from Germany?
That's the problem, though. Without any specific evidence, it would be impossible to answer that question,
Right.
because you could come up with a lot of different answers that we haven't considered here that may be the truth, and I don't know. But it does beg the question, why are these guys posing for these Jeeps, all of them brand new Jeeps, and all the commissioners are there and the sheriff's there, and like you said, they don't have government license plate. They have what is it called, signature license plate, where they've got the Boyce's name on there. That's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. This is, and you know, I've heard this story, but until now I've never seen a picture of the Jeeps. This just really piques my curiosity. I've got so many questions for these commissioners and the sheriff, and you know they won't answer it because they don't want to answer it. But I do have to answer a couple of questions for a gentleman who's made a comment on YouTube, and it's I've got it at the bottom of the screen. It's from Oregon Outlaw 2000. He says, "Was that the Douglas County Courthouse when Paul Cantrell was there?" Yes, Oregon Outlaw. That was the meeting where Rob Price had gotten physical with Samantha. And then he asks a second question, or he makes a statement. "I remember seeing Stan Avery and Rod Schilling there. If that was the time they called the police on you, Rob." And yes, that was the time they called the police on me. And I had talked to Stan Avery. Me and Rod don't talk to each other at all. And so, and of course, we recognized them as soon as they pulled up. We were standing on the corner and we watched Rod drive by in his pickup truck. And so we knew they were there. And the first thing we're asking is, why do they have county officials from Coos County coming to the Douglas meeting? And of course, I know the answer. I think I got the answer, is because they're part of the establishment and they want to give credence to the other establishment. And they also want to figure out how they can get rid of troublemakers in their own county that they don't like. All of it very interesting.
So, question. I don't think I know Rod Schilling, but I know the name. Was he elected as a delegate? Am I right?
He's a chair, and he had no official position other than providing security. Okay. Anyone who knows Rod Schilling, a quick kick to his knees and that man's going down. Okay. His knees are bad. His hips are bad. He's an old guy, older than I am. And Stan Avery is not someone who I would have as security. The guy believes in Bigfoot. You know what I mean? He's out in the forest chasing Bigfoot. I don't know if he's even in touch with reality for things like that. And so it just, you know, and I'm friends with Stan. I like Stan. It's just I wouldn't have him as my security. So for them to say that Rod was there and Stan was there for security reasons, yeah, right. I'm just not buying that.
Yeah, well, there was a ton of people I know. In fact, there was so I don't know his name. You probably would know his name. He was there at Dr. Douglas Frank's talk in your county, in Coos. Was it Bandon? Yeah,
Yes.
Bandon. Is that Coos County, Bandon?
Yes.
Okay, so he was there at that meeting in
Stan Avery?
Is that who Stan Avery is?
Yes, the gentleman who has the beard, the braided beard, and he looks. His wife is Teresa, and she was right next to him. And
he always talks about his children, and
he has a lot of them.
Okay. So that's interesting because Stan, okay, that's Stan Avery. Stan Avery had admitted to me that he was able to go inside the meeting, and he was in there. He was in there during the meeting, and then he said that somebody gave him a ride there. They
That
came
was
to,
Rod.
oh,
Rod Schilling and Stan Avery showed up in Rod's truck. And Rod had gone inside, and Stan came over and talked to me. Because, like I said, I have nothing against Stan. I just don't understand why he's taking the side of the political establishment these days.
it was just very interesting how he said that they came all the way out to pick him up, though. And then I heard that some of those individuals from the coast were actually paid and given rides to come to that meeting, so
That
that
would
they,
surprise me.
so that they could actually vote. I mean, I'm telling you, when I say the deck was stacked,
Yeah.
okay, let me tell you, I was inside that room. 135 individuals were in that room. I swear the AC was cut on purpose. Okay. It was hot. It was hot. I was probably stinking because it was hot in that room. I was standing in the back, and I felt threatened by Sheriff Hamlin because he stood almost like 2 people down from me. And that was right after Rob Price had basically assaulted me. Out of the 135 individuals in the room, only 125 were able to vote. Okay. Out of that 125 that were able to vote, only 10 people voted to not remove the Roseburg 6. This is shocking to me because the Roseburg 6 were able to vote. That means
4.
sorry, numbers. Yes,
4
numbers.
people.
Like only 4 people. Okay, I voted against it. That means only 3 people besides me voted against having them removed. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's the thing. I was going to Journey Church for a little while, and I saw Jeff there. You know who Jeff is?
No.
Jeff, what's his last name? He's the minister of Journey Church, and I can't think of his last name. Pascal. So I saw Jeff Pascal there, and I kind of made a comment because during the first it sucks that there's no film. I want to see that film of that meeting, because that meeting, the first hour, I kid you not, it was like, oh my God, Becky, like, guess what she said about me? Like I swear she just said like all this stuff, and I swear I was talking about me, and like, she said this at band camp, and I mean, just stupid stuff.
Right.
It doesn't have anything to do with them being on the board. It was, oh my God, she said this and I'm so offended, and so I kind of whispered to him, because I was standing behind him. I kind of whispered to him something, and he goes, they should be removed. And I was like, oh, why? Why is that? Why should they be removed? And he goes, well, it's in the bylaws. And I said, oh, really? Show me where. And so he's like, he gets out his phone and, yeah, maybe it's not. And yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently the cabal
Right.
was telling everybody there that it was in the bylaws, if they run against the establishment, that they need to be kicked off of the board. Insane. And this is just like, do you remember? Sorry, I'm relating this to something.
Right.
Do you remember when everybody said that Pence was not able to go back and investigate the 2020 election?
Right.
The Democrats were complaining, were actually saying that. Now, fast forward, they actually passed a law where the vice president can't do that.
Right.
Can't,
He could at the time.
okay?
Right. Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening here. So they told everybody that it's in the bylaws that you can't run for election for a paid elected stance or position and be on the board. They told everybody that it was already in the bylaws. But now they're trying to pass bylaws that actually say that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's about right. Lenny Ketchum said then I must have been one of the three. So Lenny voted.
Oh, yay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lenny.
It's
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It just, and was that room hot? Were you in there, Lenny? That room was so hot. It was
everyone was complaining. And in fact, the gentleman who we were talking to when I was standing on the sidewalk in front of the doors, and we purposely stood in front of the doors because we wanted to, let them know we're here. We're not going to, be afraid of them, doing whatever they're doing. And, that's when they called the cops on me because I'm such a threat. At any moment I might go off. And so there was a young man who came in and said, I have no idea what's going on. He hadn't a clue of what was happening. He says, we were just called here. This is the first meeting that I've been to as a PCP. And we explained to him what was happening, and he couldn't believe it. He was all, that doesn't even sound right. And I go, well, that's what they're doing. And so he went inside and he left before he made his vote, which kind of ticked me off because I thought, wow, you should have stayed in there and made the right vote. He filmed the assault that Rob Price did on you. He filmed that. And he only got the audio of it, but we could hear it and we could see, the bottom halves of you and Rob Price and stuff. And so that was interesting that he had came out, and I forget who he said was his friend in there, and she was one of the ones who was part of the establishment. Mm-hmm. And we're like, no, she's feeding you a bunch of BS. Let me tell you our side, because our side always gets left out. They don't want us talking. That's part of that transparency and good stuff. And they portray themselves as innocent victims, of us being, I don't even sure what they think we're doing to them. All we want to do is just have the same chance to run candidates just like they're doing in a primary. That's what a primary is for. And if not,
all I think is that I can do a better job than the guy in office right now.
Right.
That's all I'm wanting to do is do a better job. And I think I could do a great job in comparison. But anyway, sorry.
So this takes me, so we got the 2 strikes. I said, we're going to find 3 strikes against him. This is the 3rd one. Go ahead and tell people about this event that Dan Loomis was a part of. And as far as I'm concerned, is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. And especially disgusting the fact that he's the one who is the county clerk who's going to be officiating the election. Go ahead and tell people about this event.
Well, this popped up on my email, and I was just like, what? Like, I couldn't believe this. And then I thought maybe, David Brock Smith or Virgil Osborne or somebody put this together because, that's their MO, right?
Right.
Oh, we want to, get the senior citizens and maybe fill out the ballots for them. And let me take your hand and,
here's a root beer float. Do you want a root beer float?
here's an ice cream for your ballot. Give me the ballot.
And we're talking about people. Some of these people have dementia. They have Alzheimer's. They are very advanced elderly people. Yeah, this was insane. I couldn't believe that they actually advertised this.
And guess who put it together? Dan Loomis. He was the one who put it together. I was in disbelief when I found that out. And then there's I didn't even send you the photos from the actual event when they're all like posing there smiling with the senior citizens. And and there's only one picture of somebody eating an ice cream. The rest of it is
But from what I understand, they canceled the booth. They just allowed them to show up, didn't they?
Not that I'm aware of. They were there. They got their pictures taken. They were there.
Were they
And
harvesting ballots?
I was not there. It actually says ballot harvesting on the ad, and nobody argued against that. So, as far as I know, that they were still harvesting ballots there, and there was a person eating ice cream there too. So I did not see John Hanlon in those pictures, but I saw everybody else. I saw David Brock Smith. I saw Virgil Osborne in those pictures. I saw John Hanlon, or I didn't see John Hanlon, but I saw Dan Loomis in those pictures. And I even saw Kathy Lynn in those pictures too. So
we had contacted the lady who runs the senior center. We had talked to two ladies. I talked to the lady who organized the event. She was appalled that this was even going on. And then I talked to the director, who said she was appalled. And within an hour, she said she was uninviting the people who were going to do the booth, even though they were going to allow the politicians to show up. So I don't know if the politicians showed up and served ice cream, but from what I understood, they were going to cancel the booth that was planned for the event. But like you said, I wasn't there. I don't know what really happened.
well, I know that they had pictures with ice cream in it too. So
Wow.
I don't think the event was stopped. In fact, I've been an advocate against the landing. Like if somebody asks me, oh, name a senior center that I should take my family to, and if somebody brings up the landing, I'll be like, hey, if you want somebody in their face ballot harvesting them and abusing the elder, I mean, it's elder abuse. Sorry,
Right.
but it is. You're conniving enough to advertise it as ballot harvesting, and you said that they were disgusted with it, but nobody called me. I wrote to them, and nobody called me and said anything against it.
And what the name of the event is the GOTV and Ice Cream Social. Let me tell you something else. GOTV means get out the vote, for anyone who doesn't know. And the Ice Cream Social is advertising a food product, which is against the rules for a campaign to use food or drinks for enticing people to vote for them. That's completely against the rules. But the funny thing was this was a work source event. This was for businesses to come in and display their businesses. And that's not even mentioned on this whole thing. And I had sent this photo that you have right there. I sent that whole thing to the director. And like I said, within an hour, she said she was canceling their booth being there. They said they have been uninvited. And she said that they allow the senators and the representatives to show up, but they also allowed Todd Vaughn to show up. I don't know whether you knew that or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Todd Vaughn. In fact, the day after they canceled it, Todd had called and they invited him to go speak with the seniors. And I would recommend to you to go to all of these senior centers and start talking to these seniors, because you're a lot more likable than Dan Loomis. He comes off as a sleazy car salesman, and I think you come off a lot better. So I would start going to all these senior centers starting tomorrow as soon as you can, and call them and let them know you don't want to do ballot harvesting. You don't want to take people's ballots, but you would like to talk to some of the people at the senior center. And Todd had a great time. He was there all day, and we had pictures, but we didn't want to put the pictures out because we didn't want him to be accused of what they were doing. So, that's the game in politics. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have events. Normally in a campaign, you want to report those events and advertise those events because, people love that stuff. But we weren't going to do it because we didn't want to get accused of a ice cream social and ballot harvesting event.
Well, I can see that, but if it was about careers, and they're advertising ballot harvesting at this at it's unbelievable. Like
They hijacked, Dan Loomis literally hijacked their event for the Republicans so that they could have this booth. And like I said, when I talked to the director, she was shocked. She was absolutely just disgusted by the whole thing. She goes, "No, we don't let that happen here. That's not something we allow."
So I got the pictures. So there are pictures that surfaced, and I got the pictures from Republican, what is it called? The Republican GOP or the Douglas County GOP Facebook site.
Yeah.
And interesting. Okay, this is really weird. Interestingly enough, those pictures included the bathroom and blank, like just random rooms in the landing, just with nobody in them.
Well, that's odd.
Is that weird or what? Like, so it just makes you wonder what really they were there for. Are they trying to buy the building? Are they trying to, it was just really weird.
That does sound strange. And it's funny you mentioned the Facebook page. I posted this video on that page.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't gotten any responses. I don't know if the post went through, but for some reason I'm a member of that group, which is unbelievable. I can't believe they still have me as a member. And I posted the link to this show, this podcast. So maybe some of them are watching. And if they are, please answer, because most of them I talk to don't want to come on here. They don't even want to talk to us. They're much like the leftists. If we can't answer your questions, we just don't want to talk to you at all.
Right. Well, honestly, I would want them to ask me questions instead of, trying to kick me. Well, they actually, what did they do one time? I responded to this event actually on the Douglas County GOP site, and they took my response down completely. At the same time, on that same post, they were like, "Your voice matters." And then in their introduction or their like main photo, they post the fact that they stand for freedom and freedom of speech and all this stuff. And I was like, do you even know what that means?
Right.
Like, you're taking down my voice at the same time you're saying everybody's voice matters. Like, what? It just was so weird. And like,
these are the same people who say they believe in the democratic process and yet want to get rid of primary challengers. I mean, the dichotomy of what they're saying and what they're doing is just so bizarre. It was like when Rod Schilling went after, he threatened to go after my advertisers. In fact, I told him, please go after my advertisers, because my advertisers are my friends, and they would have told him to go take a flying leap. And unfortunately, he did go to some of Diane Rich's advertisers for her newsletter and got some of them to stop advertising with her. And these are the same people who complained about being canceled by the left when they're out there now canceling anyone who challenges them.
Are like do they not see the hypocrisy?
They do. They don't care.
Here's another hypocrisy point too. So Sheriff Hanlon. So there's a newspaper article of Sheriff Hanlon running, and the fact that he got his 15-year under person to run in that election, in the primary election against him, right? So wait. You're saying you don't want any Republicans running against any of you or your friends, but yet you can tell your friend to run against you? But
why would he have a friend run against him?
Well, he called it in the newspaper article that I read, he called it a strategy. So that strategy is that he just wanted to get the election over and done with. And because who was it that was running against him? He was with the Cow Creek tribe. I don't remember his name. So somebody was running against the sheriff kind of at last minute.
Right.
And he was with the Cow Creek tribe.
There were 3 candidates, if I remember, in the primary, right?
Yes. But Sheriff Hanlon, there was only 2 initially. So there was Sheriff Hanlon, of course. You know, he probably went with Dan Loomis down the first day that they were able to actually, get reelected back into their office. They probably turned in their application at the same time. And then at the last minute, there was a guy, I don't remember his name, I forgot it, but he's with the Cow Creek Tribe Police, and he wanted to run against Hanlon. He made the statement that he's running because he is sick and tired of the incompetence level of government. That's why he was running. And both Todd and I were both like, no, I think I would probably rather vote for him rather than
Right.
Hanlon, to be honest, because even though he was one in the letter that they're accusing of being non-Republican.
Right.
They didn't say that he was a Democrat, but they're saying that he's non-Republican, which means I don't know what his voter affiliate is or his political affiliation is, but
Right.
But so Sheriff Hanlon in this newspaper article said that he got Odell is his name. He got Odell to run in this election so that it stayed in the primary. That's his strategy. He didn't want the election going on to the general, because if it were only 2 individuals like Dan and I, then it would move on to the general election.
Now, this is a guy who got blackmailed for taking dirty pictures of himself and sending them over the internet to an ex-girlfriend. Well, she was his girlfriend at the time. He gets blackmailed. He's too stupid to do something that we tell teenagers not to do, because at some point someone's going to use those pictures against you. And he thinks that he's a strategist when it comes to politics. Wow.
That's what he thinks. Yeah.
Wow.
So
They
that
need
was
to buy him another Jeep.
Well, yeah, that was his strategy. His strategy was to get his 15-year under person, the person that had been under him for 15 years, to run against him.
Right.
But how awful of us to run against his friends. That's the hypocrisy that we're up against. It's okay for him to do it. It's okay for him to rope his little friend into running, right? But it's not okay for us to think that we could do a better job than his little buddies.
Yeah. Someone just said he sounds like Anthony Weiner. Very much like Anthony Weiner. I mean, totally. I mean, it just, wow. I when I heard the story, it was mind blowing. That a sheriff could be as stupid to send out. I don't know. That's just not my thing. And I never understood people, grown-ups, who would do that. You know, I can understand how kids might get involved with something like that because they're kids. Their brains aren't developed. But a sheriff? Seriously, how stupid can you be? Before, because we've been on here for like 2 hours. This has been really good. I've enjoyed this conversation. Go ahead and tell us what you're going to do when you're county clerk and how people can reach you, and then we'll call it good unless you got something else to say.
I plan on, the first thing that I plan on doing when I get in, and I'm saying when, because I honestly do not think that our county clerk will be in there much longer after cheating. If he does insist on cheating, I don't think that he will be in there much longer. So let's just say it that way. But as soon as I get in, I plan on actually not only getting rid of the machines, but I plan on turning them over to the Department of Justice or the Attorney's Office of the District of Oregon. and as far as I know, I think that's a newer office that actually does good work in as far as their investigations go. They just had I think they had a super bust, is what I was reading about the other day, of all of these like drug traffickers and human traffickers. Is from what I saw, they're actually busting individuals. They're actually doing their job. And so I was going to turn over the machines to them. Hand counting is that has to happen. The hand counting. I like Todd Vaughn's idea of doing the hand counting in the precinct level, and then turning it over to me, to the actual county office, and then so when we turn, there has to be something to where, and I'm not sure what it is going to have to be, but I know Dr. Douglas Frank is going to help me out in decentralizing that. But we have to be able to keep track of those numbers to the point, because did Michaela ever talk about this? Michaela had caught them. Was it the 2020 election? I believe it was the 2020. She might correct you, but Michaela had caught them. Dan reporting a certain number to the state, to Salem, and Salem had gotten it wrong. And she had to call Dan, and Dan didn't realize it, apparently, right, that they had gotten the number wrong. But Michaela, I think it was Michaela that had to report that. And I don't remember which election it was. I think it was the 2020 election, if I'm correct. It might have been the 2022. But those numbers, we have to keep track of those numbers, and we have to make sure that the state gets it right, because we're the ones that are hand counting. So, and ultimately, I want to be the shining beacon of constitutional and lawful elections. I want to hold one-day elections, only one day. And that will happen eventually. I'm not sure if it will happen right away. And I was talking to Dr. Douglas Frank about the voter rolls. It might have to be that we just do the voter rolls completely over again.
Yeah.
They're so messed up. I don't know. I really don't even know if we can actually clean them at this point in time.
Well, from what I understand, doesn't law allow you to go through and clean the voter rolls in your county? I'm pretty sure it does. And I would think that, like I said, when you have a county commissioner go out with his wife and knock on 17 doors, and 7 of the 17 of the people who voted at those addresses don't live at those addresses, I think that would be something, as a county clerk, this is what I would do. I would get volunteers to do exactly what Rod Taylor and his wife did in each and every district, and just do a sweep through the districts of finding out if people were actually at this residence for the ballot that you counted for that voter. And,
Well, that's after the effect. We can actually, that's a good touch. So what I do plan on doing is going through that. Unfortunately, the county clerks in Oregon only hold their election evidence only 20 months, unfortunately. So
is that required? Okay, so they only allow you to hold it for 20 months, but do they require you to destroy it after 20 months? Or is that something that's discretionary?
It is discretionary, and I read that in the laws. But Dan Loomis, on one of his question and answers, this is before the 2022 election, he actually was very giddy and very happy. And he said, guess what I get to do? I get to destroy the evidence from the 2020 election. And he was just so excited about it. And I was
Four strikes.
Yes, I was so angry. I was listening on the question and answer, and I was asking questions. I was typing them all out, and I was so angry. I was sitting, angry faces at him, and I was like, this has to be illegal. Like, I
Right.
just couldn't believe it. He said he takes pleasure. He literally said that word, pleasure. I'm going to take pleasure in destroying the evidence of the 2020 election.
That's sick. That's
sick.
really
It
disturbing.
really is sick. Yes, it is.
We had to get a court injunction because we had a lawsuit for the 2020 election for all the anomalies, and we had to have the lawsuit led to an injunction to force them to keep those records. They've since been destroyed because the court case is over with. Wow.
Yeah.
Like it's taking up space. We're talking about stuff that's on a zip drive, right? It's not like it's a huge file cabinet.
And that was his excuse. Was it we only have space enough to hold 20 months or what have you. And it's like, no, Dan, this is evidence. I was a forensic scientist. I think of it, evidence. You believe me, when I was at GBI or ATF or any agency that I'd ever worked for, we save evidence for more than 20 years. I mean, there's these things called cold cases where you can go back and you can actually open up the evidence and investigate these cold cases of murder. And this is the same thing. Why would I, if I'm the county clerk, I would never want to actually destroy the evidence. Actually, I would be quite the opposite. I would actually be like, is there anything that we can do to save it? Because this is evidence. This is all evidence. So yes, I would actually work on saving that. And we can actually go back and do exactly what you're talking about for the 2024 primary, because I highly, highly doubt that there would still be evidence left for any other election other than the primary of 2020, unfortunately.
Right.
So
it's all gone if it's over the time limit, and that guy was that thrilled about it. I guarantee you it's gone.
I guarantee it too. Yeah, unfortunately. But there is high hopes then in that case for the 2020 or the 2024 primary election to uncover exactly what happened and who voted for what. But when I talk about the voter rolls in the future, I'm almost thinking that we're going to have to kind of uproot the voter rolls as of right now and just start over again and have everyone just reapply. Unfortunately, and I know that there will be some complaints about that, but unfortunately, I mean, believe me when I say Dan actually, and this was before, during the 2022 election, Dan told one of the observers that there is no specific law in Oregon that actually did not allow non-citizens to vote. So
he may be correct about that, but the federal law, there is a federal law against federal offices.
I wrote the Secretary of State after that, and I said, please tell me that you have some law on hand saying that non-citizens cannot vote in Oregon's elections. And she sent me all these things where there's 40, she said there's 47 spots in here that says that you cannot register to vote in the state of Oregon unless you are a citizen. Nice. 47 times it says that. And it was a 1993 law. And so with him saying that, he's just, it's part of his BS. And it's part of his excuse as to allowing non-citizens to vote. Because he's looking for a very specific wording saying that non-citizens cannot vote. Well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to put 2 and 2 together, Dan.
Right.
If you cannot register to vote, not when you're a non-citizen, then you cannot vote.
Right.
Plain and simple. You
Plain
have to
and simple. Well, that's part of the ignorance, and I don't know if it's intentional ignorance or just plain old ignorance, but the man doesn't seem to be the smartest, the smartest guy in the room. That's for sure. He's got a few problems with his philosophy, and once again, it's anyone who's a county clerk talking about a ballot harvesting of senior folks and who are mentally challenged. Wow, that right there just makes me question anyone who does that. Where can people reach you?
They can reach me on Facebook. I am Frost for Oregon. It's 2 different words, Frost and then for Oregon on Facebook. They can also reach me by email. Let's see, what's my Proton? It's I believe. Hold on one second. Let me try to get the Proton for a minute here. Did I email you from Proton or no?
You got a Gmail.
Okay.
It was a Gmail, so I don't want to give that out if it's not.
So I believe, it's Frost, the number 4, Oregon at proton.me. And I will answer any questions that you have for me from that or by Messenger. I answer Messenger all the time, and Facebook if you're on. I'm not on Twitter or X yet. I've been told by Michaela I probably should get on, and I just haven't yet. So
I can understand why you wouldn't. I despise social media, but yet in the business that I'm in, you have to be on social media. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, it's one of those things to where I know that I have to get out, and I know that I should be getting on, but I just have not. I haven't yet. So, but be looking out for my profile. I'll eventually sign up for it. I promise.
You got a deal. And quickly, anything else you'd like to say?
No, just I guess I would just like to ask everybody to be patient and vote for Constitution. And believe me, I actually teach the Constitution right now. I'm in this group, and it's you know what group I'm in.
Right.
Believe me, I am so blessed with so many patriots backing me right now. If I did not have the patriots backing me that I have right now, I probably don't know if I could do this by myself. Right. So
it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is. So since I know the Constitution, I know what is constitutional, and I really solely believe in the Constitution, and I really solely believe that when I am elected, you, the people, are the ones that actually are my boss, not the Secretary of State. And what I'm hearing is the Secretary of State will charge $1,000 for hand counting if any county clerk does it. Who cares, by the way?
Right.
$1,000. I think the county clerk in Douglas County right now makes $110,000 a year. So, so anyways, yeah. So who cares? I don't care. I don't throw whatever you want at me. It's not going to affect me because my bosses are you. So yeah, just want to throw that out there.
Well, thank you, Sam, and we'll get you back on before November. And
Awesome.
I appreciate you coming on. And we'll have to get you on one of those panel shows on Friday night. I don't know if you watch the Friday night rants, and we'll get you on for one of those panel shows where I talk about different issues and let you respond to that. And
Cool. Yeah.
I think for a candidate, that's kind of cool because you get out of the realm of just campaigning for county clerk. They get an idea of what your other beliefs are on other issues. So
True.
Thank you very much for being on.
And thank you for having me. Thank you so
No
much,
problem.
Rob.
You
Bye.
take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. That was Samantha. Oh my gosh, Samantha Frost. Boy, I hate that. I only just talked to the woman for an hour, and well, there you go. Actually, it's been a couple of hours. We've been talking for a while, but it was very interesting. I tell you what, I think we live in a great county because it sounds like there's a lot of lack of a better word, corruption going on. A little bit of corruption going on in Coos County. Douglas County. In Coos County, I don't know if it's so much corruption as we got one or two commissioners that's a little incompetent. But, I do have to give kudos to Bob Main. Bob Main, the commissioner who's running right now, he's running against Drew Farmer. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a Drew Farmer fan. And I like Drew Farmer. I have nothing against him. I just don't like his politics. He knows this. And I'll have Drew on the show soon. Hopefully, I'll get Bob on the show as well. But Drew Farmer is running against Bob, and I think that Bob would be better suited for staying in the position he's in. I was a big supporter of Chris, and still am a big supporter of Chris Castleman. I thought he was new. I thought he was unique. I thought he had different ideas and thought out of the box. And I think he would have made a great commissioner. And unfortunately, in the three-way race in the primary, he came in third. And that means that Bob will face off against Drew Farmer. Hopefully Bob comes on the show, but I have to give him credit because this is what started this conversation. He showed up for our Trump rally, and it was a really cool Trump rally. We had about 24, 25 people show up, and the majority of the people that were in their cars driving by us, honking, cheering. I mean, it was nonstop with the honks. People loved the Trump rally. Why? Because they just, some crazy person just tried to kill the poor man. And so they're more energized for the Trump campaign. In fact, I think that was the first time we've had a Trump rally this year. I think this is the first time this year that we've had a Trump rally, and we're going to do a Trump train pretty soon. I don't know. I've got a few ideas of what I want to do. I want to get some speakers out here, and I want to do a Trump train. The problem is I'm running out of weekends. It's all the way up through November. The weekends are starting to get eaten up. So I got to come up with a weekend that, there isn't another event happening. And so some Saturday, maybe even a Sunday, we'll do a Trump train. I hope all of you are up for a Trump train. That's always a blast. And, the last time we did one, we had about a quarter mile of cars driving from here to Winchester Bay. And we unfurled this huge flag. It was like a football field-sized flag. We unfurled this huge flag, and there were so many of us in this Trump train that there was a person all the way around the flag, and we unfurled it. And then Joey Gibson from Patriot Prayer gave a speech, and we had a couple of other speakers. And it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing, I tell you. And I think we'll be planning that again. We'll be doing another Trump train. Maybe we'll do a couple of rallies. It's sad that we are in Oregon, and more than likely, you can almost the results. Trump isn't going to win. Trump isn't going to win. I mean, in the state of Oregon, not for the United States. And the United States, I think Trump's probably going to do it. I really got a feeling Trump is going to do it, and what really sealed the deal is the fact that he just survived an assassination attempt. I think that really puts him on a whole other level. And, they've been modernizing him for a whole long time by making him, going after him using the legal system. I mean, we all saw what they did. They took the justice system, they used it like a blunt force instrument, and they pounded against Trump. And, most people in the world, if the justice system comes after you, you don't have the resources or the connections that Trump has to stop them pounding on you with that blunt force instrument of the justice system. And, most people would cave in. That's why they do cave in. And in fact, there's been a lot of people who were involved with election integrity issues who were charged with different things, and they caved because they were going to be found guilty no matter what they did, because they were being railroaded. And, anyone who's lived through the war on drugs, how the justice system can railroad a lot of people. You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of people my age and who went through the war on drugs and who have experienced the crappy side of the legal system. The legal system, they want to win, at any cost. It doesn't matter. They want to win. And so they're willing to do whatever they want to do to take out individual citizens. It's very sad. It's very disgusting. And we just saw that play out against our presidential candidate, former President Donald Trump. And so I think he'll win in the U.S., but there's no way he's going to win in Oregon, folks. I mean, he could if enough Republicans would show up. If you damn Republicans would get off your asses and actually vote in the election, we might have a shot. With the amount of Republicans that don't vote, we could really win a lot of elections in Oregon. And it's really sad that we have such low turnouts a lot of times for people who are in the Republican Party. And in fact, if you're one of those people who don't vote, don't bother telling me your opinion. I don't care what your opinion is if you're not even willing to go out and vote for whatever. And, and people go, well, Rob, you've said you haven't voted for people. Well, yeah, I vote. There's just certain categories I don't vote for. I'll put in the word none of the above. I decided not to decide in that category because everyone who's running in that category sucks, but I vote pretty much every damn election. There was one election about 4 years ago that I forgot to turn in my ballot. I think that's been about the only one that's slipped in the last 20 years. I'm pretty good about voting. I got a high record. People know that I'm going to be turning in my ballot, no doubt about it. And if we could get more Republicans to do that, we could probably turn this state, maybe not into a red state, but maybe a purple, nice shade of purple state. That would be nice. But we do have things that are going on in the county. We just had Saturday. We had the windmill, the wind turbine rallies. We were rallying against the wind turbines. And that's going to be happening again this weekend. We don't want no wind turbines. You see that nice little whale right there? Yeah, that's Blimpie. Blimpie the whale. Well, we don't want anyone to kill Blimpie, and we certainly don't want Blimpie to die because he can't navigate anymore because of all the noise that's being created by these wind turbines. And we don't want the birds destroyed. We don't want the crabs destroyed. We don't want the environment destroyed because they're nothing but unrecyclable material that's being used to create these damn wind turbines. They're not green, they're not efficient, they're very expensive, and they kill wills and birds. Why? Why would anyone want it? And you know how to tell that this is a boondoggle, these wind turbines? The government is paying for 90% of this project, if not more. I mean, the companies who lease these wind turbine areas, if they get a fiscal loss, meaning they lose money on the venture, the wind turbine venture, guess who has to cover that loss? Yes, you and me, the taxpayer. So the fact that they're covering the liability for the companies who are going to lease these call areas where they're going to put these wind turbines, that alone should tell you that it's a scam. It's a boondoggle. So we're having a bunch of rallies to kind of stop that. And of course, no wind turbines. We don't want that. There's the call areas. If you haven't seen the map, there's the Oregon proposed lease areas. Those are the call areas where they're going to have the windmills. You can see the one at the top there across from Reedsport. They call it the Coos Bay area. I don't know why they were calling it that. It's really more in Douglas County than it is in Coos County. And most of the people in Douglas County probably don't even know about the damn thing that's coming through. But if you look at the one on the bottom, it's definitely across from Brookings, and we've been protesting in Brookings. In fact, we've been protesting in Coos Bay, Bandon, Gold Beach, and Brookings because, well, we want to show them that there's opposition to that. And of course, this Saturday, we're having another rally. We're having a rally against the windmills. 2 rallies in one day, high noon Saturday at the Curry County Courthouse. That's this Saturday, July 20th. The Curry County Courthouse on Highway 101 right there in Gold Beach. We're going to be standing out there on the sidewalk holding our signs and our flags. Please join us. Please join us. If you're opposed to these wind turbines, the more people we get out there, the more we get the message out. People, when they drive by and they see a huge crowd of people holding signs, just human nature will make them go, what the hell's going on? What are all these people standing around? And boy, these look like some really sharp people. So if these really sharp people are standing around holding signs, maybe I should read the signs and find out what's going on. So that's why we need to do these rallies, because it's awareness. This is all going to end up in the courts. You're going to have the Indian tribes, you're going to have the counties suing the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. That's what's going to eventually happen. But until then, we've got to keep up the pressure on these private corporations who are going to be leasing these call areas. And the one best way to do that is to do protests. So high noon this Saturday, July 20th, at the Curry County Courthouse and Highway 101 in Gold Beach. And then afterward, at 2 o'clock, we're heading down to Brookings, which is about a 30-minute drive down to Brookings, the same Saturday, and we're going to 7-Eleven Chetco. That's 7-Eleven Chetco, which is Highway 101. It turns into Highway 101. It's but they call it Chetco. And I'd recommend you guys come out and check it out. Bring your American flag. We've got signs for you. You don't even have to worry about bringing a wind turbine sign. I've got a sign that I'll provide for you. And heck, I'll make sure and have those H stakes. So if you want to take that sign back with you and put it in your front yard, I'd have no problem with it. I think that would be great. So if you want to get a sign, just bring it back the next time you come to one of our rallies against these wind turbines. And that way we don't have to keep purchasing more and more signs. But we don't mind giving them out and letting you people take them home and put them up in your businesses or putting them up in your yard. And if you want to find out more, go to Facebook to Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. Once again, that's Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. Let's go through that. Let's see. Oh, wasn't that a beautiful shot? I mean, this is the guy who's going to win the presidency. This is one of the most iconic pictures that we're going to see for the next, 20, 30 years. You remember the picture of Ronald Reagan right before he was shot by Hinckley, standing in front of the limousine as he was getting into the limousine, and he raises his left arm to wave, and that's when he gets shot. And I'll never forget it. Well, this picture is just going to be just as iconic as that, and I think that is going to help put Donald Trump into the White House. I think people are just absolutely impressed with this. Did you read this story about MSNBC? They did not air Morning Joe after Trump assassination attempt. Yeah, they thought that Morning Joe, he wasn't going to be able to hold his tongue, or his guests weren't going to be able to hold his tongue. So him and Mika, that's his wife, girlfriend / lover, whatever the hell she is. Mika and Morning Joe, they were taken off for Monday. I don't know if this is going to be for a couple of days, but they were taken off because, MSNBC, they were a little afraid. They were a little afraid that, people might be a little too truthful with their feelings. And in fact, here's a quote from that story. It says CNN reported Monday, citing a person familiar, that the decision to not air Morning Joe after the shooting was made to avoid a scenario in which one of the show's staples of 24+ guests might make an inappropriate comment on live television that could be used to assail the program and network as a whole. A spokesman for MSNBC denied CNN's reporting when contacted by The Hill, because that story I showed you came from The Hill. And I'm willing to bet it's true, because if MSNBC is denying it, you can almost guarantee it's true because CNN is reporting it. That's just how that works, because they're leftist and they lie. And so I'm someone who they should allow Morning Joe to go on. And if people want to say the disgusting things they're going to say about the attempted assassination, let them say it. Let them say whatever they want, because I'd rather hear it and know what they're thinking than have them being silenced and wondering what's going on in their head. Because you allow people to speak, they'll tell you what their plans are. Believe me, Hitler, he wrote Mein Kampf before he did all that crap to Germany. If the Germans would have read Mein Kampf, they would have gone, oh, well, this guy, he's crazy. Hitler, this guy's absolutely crazy. Let's not do his final solution there. His final solution is not a good solution, so let's not do it. So I would have preferred that MSNBC allowed Morning Joe and his girlfriend / wife / whatever, Mika, would have been allowed to go on there, and they allowed their guests to speak their mind. That's just what I'm all about the First Amendment. And I think the First Amendment was designed for people who want to say stupid stuff. You want to say stupid stuff? It's your right. So go right ahead. You got till July 28th to make a comment to the Department of State Lands, the Oregon Department of State Lands. You can find out more about this on my webpage, robtaylorreport.com. And on my webpage, you can find out more about a lot of different things, because there's a lot of information on my webpage. And if you want to find out more about what's going on, go to my X page too. X at Rob Taylor Report. I'm on Rumble at Rob Taylor Report, and I'm on YouTube at Rob Taylor Report. Or you can go to robtaylorreport.com, go to my blog page, and you can find out about this comment period, which is happening Sunday, July 28th. And send your comments to elliottproject.dsl@oregon.gov. And right there, you can, if you got a paper and pen on hand, you can just write that down. Otherwise, go to my blog page. I've got all this information right on there. You just have to scroll down a little bit and find it. It's not that hard to find, folks. And let's see, what else do I got here? What else was happening? Yes. Oh, the Coos County Board of Commissioners meeting tomorrow. Tomorrow in Coquille at 9:30 a.m. That's Tuesday, tomorrow, July 16th. They had some very interesting things on the agenda. If you want to find out what's happening in your county, go to the Board of Commissioners meeting. It happens every other Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. And this is happening in Coquille at the Owens Building. That same night, tomorrow night, Coos Bay City Council meeting in City Hall building. 500 Central Avenue in Coos Bay, 6 o'clock tomorrow night, July 16th. Go find out, if you live in Coos Bay, go find out what's happening at the City Hall building, and they give you a public comment, so you can go there and tell them off if you want to, or tell them they're doing a good job. I don't know. You figure it out, because we're all participants in this game of life here. So that's just what's going on at the Coos Bay City Council and their meeting that's happening tomorrow at 6 p.m. in City Hall. And of course, tonight in Bandon, they're having their regular City Council meeting at the City Hall in Bandon. I didn't even look at their agenda. I don't know what they're doing. See, that was my mistake. I didn't look at their agenda, and they might be making a decision that's going to affect my life. So if you live in Bandon and you're concerned about what's going on in your city, go to the City Council meeting. It's happening tonight, 7 o'clock. That's today, July 15th. Go check it out. See what's going on. I want to thank my special sponsors, 3H Tree Service. You can reach them at 541-294-1800. And it was really cool. Matt Holman came out in his bucket truck to the Trump rally. That happened yesterday. It was a spontaneous rally. I put the notice out about, I think about 5-6 hours before the event. And 3H Tree Service showed up with their bucket truck, and he had a flag. He took the bucket all the way up in the air. I think it was about 30-40 feet in the air. And he had his flag, beautiful American flag, waving over Highway 101 in the northbound lanes. And it was beautiful, folks. It was a beautiful thing. We had 24 people there. We were all kicking ass. And if you want to see a video of this, go to my Facebook page at robtaylorreport.com. Once again, at robtaylorreport.com. Or for Facebook, it'd be just at Rob Taylor Report. And you can check out the video of the rally that we had for President Trump. I mean, we don't like watching our presidential candidates nearly get assassinated. We don't like that. We don't appreciate it. We kind of take that a little personal. You try to shoot my candidates that I'm voting for and supporting, well, you might find yourself in a little bit of trouble. And of course, this guy found himself in a lot of trouble because he's dead now. He's rotting in hell, or wherever you go in the afterlife. That's where this guy's gone. And thank goodness, saved us a lot of taxpayer money. And thank goodness the president wasn't hurt. And my condolences to the families of the gentleman who was killed and all the people that were injured. But if you want to find out more about 3H Tree Service, because you've got a problem tree, it's a liability, you're worried about it catching fire, or it's infested with bugs, maybe it's diseased and you don't want it falling on your neighbor's house, well, call 3H Tree Service and they can take those trees out with surgical precision. They're at 541-294-1800. And by the way, they didn't have a winner for today's Where's 3H Tree Service game. No winner. They'll be playing next Monday. Next Monday, they'll be playing Where's 3H Tree Service, and if they don't have a winner by the time we go on the air, we'll have Matt Holman on here maybe giving us a little bit of hints where you can win $50. Wouldn't you like to win $50? I would love to win $50. I can't because, I'm part of the game. So where's 3H Tree Service? Happening next Monday. I highly recommend you come check it out. Tom and Giggs, we talked to Tim. Tim's always a wonderful delight to talk to. Let me tell you, the guy is great, but as he told you, if you got mufflers, you need alignment, you got any problems that you need with your automobile, you need a new side rail, you need a new lighting bar, you need to put a tonneau cover on that sucker, go to Tom and Giggs, and he can take care of you at 135 South Shoneman Street. That's in Empire in Coos Bay neighborhood. Empire is the neighborhood in Coos Bay, I should say. And you can reach them at 541-888-4660. Once again, that's Tom and Giggs. And let me tell you, they've been working on my vehicles for a long time. And I used to have this Chevy van, and Tim used to hate working on this Chevy van. First, I don't think he likes Chevys too much. I don't know. Don't mention it to him. But we used to have a Chevy van, a really old one, and I'd take it in there, and I could just see the look on his face. Is like, oh, I hate this thing. I hate working on this thing. So, he always did a good job. Even though he hated working on that van, he always did an excellent job, and I appreciate everything that Tim has done for me. And that's why he's one of my sponsors, Tom and Giggs, 135 South Shoneman Street. Please, if you have any automotive needs, he's the guy who can take care of you. And Herbal Choices. If you're in the need for some edibles, you need some herbals, you need some smoking paraphernalia, they even sell nice t-shirts, Herbal Choices t-shirts. They got some great hoodies. The last time I was there, it was really cool. They had some really cool hoodies. But for all those herbal needs, go to Herbal Choices. They have 5 stores. Can you believe that? 5 stores. Yes, and they're all beautiful stores with a wonderful staff. You can find them south of Bandon. You can find them on the North Bend Lane in Coos Bay. You can find them on the southbound lane of Highway 101 in North Bend. You can find them in Charleston, and you can also find them in Reedsport. I highly recommend Herbal Choices. Great sponsors. They've been with me for a long time. Good friends of mine. I really appreciate what they've done for me. And, of course, I wouldn't get out of here without mentioning Oregon Firearms Federation. Oregon Firearms Federation, one of the best badass groups that you can become a member of. If you want to become a member, you want to give a donation, you want to find out more information on your Second Amendment rights and what's happening in Oregon, sign up for their alerts. Kevin Starrett sends out those alerts when they're necessary. He doesn't bother you with. Do you ever sign up for alerts from different groups, and every day you're getting 2 or 3 alerts from them? Oh, it's an emergency. It's another emergency. Oh, wait, guess again. 3rd emergency for today. Well, Kevin Starrett doesn't do that. He's, I don't even think it's very rare you get 2 notices from Oregon Firearms Federation even in a week, unless it's necessary. So it's great to sign up for those alerts because you're worried about your Second Amendment rights. The leftists out there, they want to take away your guns, your ability to defend yourself, your family, your home, your property. And Kevin Starrett has been fighting against these crazy leftists probably a long damn time, almost 30 years, and I've been with them for a long time, helping them out at the Oregon Firearms Federation. They're the only no compromise gun group in Oregon, OregonFirearms.org. I highly recommend them. And even though they're not my sponsors, I like to give them a little shout out, Bandon Gun Club. You can find out more if you want to do some target shooting with your pistol, or you want to do some target shooting, trap shooting with your shotgun. Go to bandongunclub.org to find out more. Once again, that's bandongunclub.org because they rock. And if you got a rifle, because they don't have a rifle range at the Bandon Gun Club, but they do have a rifle range at the Tioga Sports Park, which is run by the Tioga Sports Park Association. And you can find out more at TiogaSportsPark.org. Once again, that's TiogaSportsPark.org. Premier sports shooting and firearms training parks. They got a 100-yard range where you can sight in your telescope, and their staff is very friendly. And they're located right next to the dump. If you know where the dump is, you know where Tioga Sports Park is. Instead of taking a right, you take a left when you pull off of 101. So there you go. That's just some of the things that are going on in America and going on in Coos County, and I like to keep you updated. And don't worry, that's just what we do here. and we'll be doing it again this Friday. I've got a panel of people that are going to come on, and we're going to do a rant. I love those Friday night rants. You notice I tried to keep the cursing down for the Monday show. I've got a good friend. Her name is Gail, and she says, Rob, I can't stand the cursing. You throw those F-bombs out like they were, pizza or something. I don't want those F-bombs. They're really offensive. So I tried to keep the cussing down for the Monday show so that people like Gail can tune in and you don't get the F-bombs and all the other curse words that, I throw out there. That's just, what can I say? That's just the kind of guy. I curse worse than a drunken sailor. In fact, that's probably an insult to drunken sailors. I curse really bad. I'm just that type of guy. I get mad and I'm going to throw out those colorful words. So I try not to do that on Monday's show. And when I was on the radio, that was probably the hardest thing about being on the radio was that there were many times when people would hear me stumbling and stammering because I wanted to say something, but a curse word was coming out, and I couldn't say it the way I wanted to say it, so that's why I kind of stumbled a little bit. And that's what's beautiful about being on a podcast that's not regulated by the FCC, which are a bunch of Nazi bastards, what can I tell you? And so you're not going to have so many of those curse words here on the Monday show. I'm going to try to keep it at a G level, so you can bring the kids in and get a little more information. I don't know. That's just a thought there. But I highly recommend you tune in for Friday night. And we might be doing a little drinking and we might be doing a little cussing. So, not such a kid-friendly show on Friday nights. So that's the Friday night rant. We'll have a wonderful group of people to talk about the issues affecting us here in Oregon. And I'll be back on next week, Monday, at the same time, the same bat channel. And so until then, folks, you know what I always say? Carry on, Coos County. Carry on, America. Carry on. Talk to you next time.